Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to Darren After the Credits, number 48. Hope everyone is having a good day. Hope everyone's doing well. Joined by my friends, like always, Taz and Darth. How's it going, fellas?
Going well. How are you?
I am good. I'm good to be back. It's I think it's a very exciting time for all of our TV shows. We're in another one of our transitional phases. I feel like we're starting to say goodbye to shows. A bunch of shows are on the horizon. Both very excited and happy about that because I've really enjoyed this era of this lineup. I think the Summer Lois, Penguin, Agatha were a really fun lineup of shows. I think that's been a really fun couple weeks.
Yeah. I think we have kind of been very much so spoiled by the fact that we had 3 big shows on all at once. It felt kind of like the good old days where you get, your Superman and Lois, your Flash, your Gotham Knights, everything like that. So I really enjoyed it. I think this was a big week, all around. We had the Penguin finale. We had quite possibly the biggest episode of Superman and Lois's final season this week, with one of the biggest reveals, which obviously we'll get into later. But I'm like, we're back, but also I'm very sad because Penguin's over. We've got 3 episodes of Superman and Lois left, and then we're gonna just be left with waiting until the next big thing.
No, I mean, I'm excited. I mean, I think after Superman and Lois, there's actually a very short break because I think the same week Superman and Lois ends is the same week I think Skeleton Crew starts.
Okay.
Which is nice. And Creature Commando starts, I'm pretty sure.
I think that's in beginning of December, right?
Yeah, I think Superman and Lois ends the 3rd and Creature starts the 5th. So it's a nice little transition period. And then going into the next year, it's non-stop stuff, I feel like. Next year is every show that couldn't come out this year is now coming out next year. Same goes for the movies. So it's we're gonna be so busy. But guys. Yeah, no, it's gonna be a really fun time. We're gonna start today's episode. Taz, obviously you sat here and listened to us talk about Agatha all along every single week.
Yeah.
I've always felt bad for spoiling you. It's over officially, and now you've caught up with Agatha, right?
Yes, I have. I spent this weekend binging the whole show. I started one episode one night, and then I just binged the whole rest of the show the next night. And that is how much I actually enjoyed it. I was talking about it before we went live with Darren, and I felt like it was kind of the perfect lead-on from, or, perfect bridge after WandaVision. I think it picked up right where it needed to. It had a very similar vibe. You could tell it was the same kind of creative team behind it. I liked how every episode kind of paid homage to a specific era, based off of what that kind of trial was in that episode. I thought the characters were great. I thought that it made me kind of care about somebody that I didn't think I would. I was like, oh yeah, Agatha, she was the villain of WandaVision. Maybe she'll come back, whatever. Coming into the show, I was like, do we even need an Agatha show? But, it wasn't necessarily just about her. I think it was building out the kind of mystical side of the MCU, kind of building out this, witch side, I guess. That's, we haven't had, too much of outside of WandaVision, outside of a little bit in Multiverse of Madness as well.
Yeah.
I think it has very big implications on the future of the MCU, and I'm very excited. Yeah. I know we talked about it a little bit last week, but, if this leads into Vision Quest, if this leads into the return of Scarlet Witch eventually, I think we're ultimately leading to Billy's going to find Tommy. I think they're going to find Vision. I think they're going to figure out definitively what happened to Wanda. Obviously, I'm still in the boat that she's alive, but, I think this show, again, I think it got a lot of maybe unnecessary hate or dismissal, and I think I kind of fell into that a little bit. I was like, oh, I don't need to watch this. I've been very much so picking and choosing as far as what Marvel projects to watch, but I'm so glad that I sat down and watched this. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah, I think this paired with the Penguin is like has carried my kind of coat case of like I don't want to say don't judge a book by its cover, but like I guess don't judge before you don't know what it is. Like I've always been a huge defender of the term like, oh, who asked for this? Like who
Yeah.
asked for this thing? It's like, yeah, but who asked for Star Wars? Like who asked for like Lord of the Rings? Like there's always going to be like a who asked for this situation. And both shows I think have been proven by people who watch it being like, oh, I didn't ask for it, but now I really like this thing and I'm glad. Like same thing goes for like a Peacemaker or like a Doom Patrol or like any of these things that people end up really enjoying after a while. Um, so yeah, no, I enjoyed it. 3Dubs, did you watch it at all? You didn't watch it, right?
No, it's because I'm just like kind of like I have my own thing. Like I'm just not like in like what is it invested into this kind of like basically I'm in anime nut right now. So if it's not anime, I basically
Fair.
like it's on the back burner until it's relevant with the actual movie. I'll eventually watch it. I'm not against watching it. But it's like I'm waiting till I figure out where they fit so I'm not sitting in my chair waiting for 5 years for it to connect.
That's fair. I mean, I think Marvel's in a definite like there's definitely a spot now with a lot of these Marvel things where I'm like, this is cool. I'm liking what they're doing. Are we ever going to follow up on these projects?
Yeah.
Are we ever going to,
Just like we had to
Good.
wait years for the follow-on from WandaVision. We had to wait,
Exactly.
We're going to probably wait another couple years for the follow-on from Agatha. So
Yeah, I'm not like a huge fan of like with Falcon and Winter Soldier. I would definitely have to watch that again to be able to fully connect with the New World Order Captain America 4 for me to to get with the story because it's been so long.
Yeah, it happened so long ago.
I hate that.
I do hope like going into phase 5. I enjoy having a large amount of content to watch. I enjoy that, but I definitely hope that they are not going into phase 5. I mean, going into the next saga of like phase 3 or whatever. Saga 3. I don't know what I'm talking about. I hope when we go into there is less of a pool they grab from, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Where it's like, not necessarily, obviously they said recently they're going to do 2 movies a year, 3 shows a year. I think that's a good amount. But lessen the characters you're pulling from, right? Mm-hmm. Or like lessen the large things where it's like, I don't want to have to wait 5 years to get an X-Men sequel or a Fantastic Four sequel. I want, focus on Fantastic Four, X-Men, Young Avengers, maybe a couple of others, but like have that pool that you're using, the storylines you're using closer knit to each other. So it's not like, because we are in an issue right now where it's like, we have too many characters. We have an unbelievably amount of characters.
There's so much stuff happening. There's this like magical witch side of the MCU. Yeah. You had your multiversal stuff going on. You still kind of have a little bit of that multiversal stuff going on. You've got your building of the Young Avengers. Then we're going to build up to, Doomsday and Secret Wars and all that kind of stuff. And how does that all overlap? Yeah. You've got now your street level stuff with Daredevil coming back in to the mix and everything. And, we've been waiting years for another Spider-Man movie, and that's kind of overlapping in all of those different areas. So it's going to be interesting to see how they streamline everything. Mm-hmm. But again, I'm at the end of the day, I'm glad that I watched it. I am also very glad that I waited until it all came out. I liked that, being able to binge the whole thing. I don't think I would have enjoyed being left on those cliffhangers week to week as much. It definitely flowed a lot better watching it as a binge.
It was tough. It was tough.
And I think rewatching a lot of stuff recently too, I've noticed is a lot of these streaming shows, I know we say it as we're watching it, but don't necessarily always go back and view it again from that angle. But watching these shows as a full binge, I end up enjoying it a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, and I think a lot of these, and we're seeing a little bit of a shift. Like, obviously, starting with Daredevil, they're going to be designed as shows. I keep saying it, a lot of these were meant as movies. It's very clear that when they were making it as a show, they're not used to, like, they didn't hire people who know how to make shows. They hired people who make movies. And, that was obviously a learning curve, but, like, Falcon and Winter Soldier to me, that felt like a film. Miss Marvel in many aspects, that felt like a film. And again, like I get it, they were learning. They were just trying some new stuff. So again, I'm excited that like I think Loki felt more like a TV show. I think Agatha felt more like a TV show. I think we're going to be seeing that with like Wonder Man and Daredevil and stuff like that. They will feel more like TV shows. I think that's really cool. But
Loki was like the closest thing to a TV show with still feeling like a movie too.
Question: you talk about them using like a slimmer scope of characters. Do you think like after Secret Wars they will just have less accessible, that loads of them have died and we're dealing with a universe that's like Endgame situation, or that they will just forget logic and cherry pick who they want all of the damn time? Which one would you think?
It's probably going to be cherry picking.
I think, and again, I think there will be characters will be left out. I think we're going to focus a lot on teams. Like, look at the lineup the lineup we've been getting. We're getting Fantastic Four, which is a team. We're getting Thunderbolts, which is potentially a team you can rotate out. We're getting the Young Avengers, which is a team of characters, obviously throwing together a bunch of the people that we've seen. Potentially, I would hope Avengers movies after Secret Wars and stuff like that. You have the X-Men, which are teams.
Yeah.
Like, I do think there's going to be focusing a lot on the teams, which I think is very smart. I think that's kind of what the MCU does best, is like bringing in all these characters that we love, putting them together in one large lineup.
But
again,
you
not to
also
say
forget about the solo outings,
right?
Obviously, and
like,
I think that's a big thing.
And honestly, I think that also makes sense because they said they want to focus on sequels. That makes sense to me. Give Black Panther 3 is going to have to come eventually. Shang-Chi 2 will have to come eventually. Maybe a Thor 5 eventually. Like, they're probably going to be picking these sequels that they know will work, know will make money. But again, I am curious because, like, where do we leave the state of our cast post Secret Wars? Like, do we start recasting people like I could see them doing, or do we just kind of stick with the characters that we know and love and stuff like that? So
I also think like we're going to get like TV shows that are for like TV, and they're not going to be like fully attached to the MCU, but still being attached to it, meaning their story is more like in a bubble. In a bubble, to where they don't like spill out until the movie. And basically when they're in the movie, it won't reference the TV show because that story is concluded.
Yeah.
And they're like
very similar to what like the Netflix Daredevil stuff kind of did, where it's like they reference the movies, they even cherry, they had the events from like Avengers 2012 in Daredevil season 1, but it's his own thing. It's completely on. Actually, kind of like what Agatha did. I think that maybe which is why I liked Agatha so much, because it was really its own thing. Like there was some stuff from the outer bins, but really it was its own. Like WandaVision, it felt more connected to WandaVision than it was the MCU as a whole, which I think is kind of fun.
It was just a WandaVision sequel with little references to things that happened in Multiverse Madness, and that's it.
Yeah, it's a very good way to look at it.
And like look up the lineup. I guess Vision Quest is one that's probably going to be connected because of Ultron and stuff. But like Daredevil seems like it's going to be pretty Well, I guess I can't say that.
Nova will be like disconnected with that, with being connected. Like we don't know where Nova will fit in the overall big MCU, but as of right now, he is a character that I can see multiple seasons, and he's in a bubble right now. Like he can be in a bubble.
Same with Wonder Man. Like Wonder Man feels like it could be very self-contained.
He's in a bubble too.
Yeah.
I think that's how they're gonna kind of present Fantastic Four at first. Obviously, we know we're leading towards Doomsday. But I
Doom, not Doomsday.
Or Avengers Doomsday.
Okay, I'll let you slide on that one.
So we're leading towards Doomsday, the Avengers movie, titled Doomsday. And I think that for the Fantastic Four's first outing, as long as they stay kind of in their own world, and then maybe at the end of it reference joining the MCU, because I believe it's supposed to take place on a different Earth or in a different timeline or whatever. I like that idea. I like the idea of standalone stories, and I think that's why the Penguin works so well for DC. I think that's why things like Peacemaker work so well, because it is very much so standalone. Yes, it comes from the aftermath of a movie. Yes, seeing that movie would make the shows more impactful, but you don't have to have seen that movie to enjoy the show, and you don't have to have seen the show to enjoy future movies. It's a nice little kind of bridging the gap, but it's not necessary viewing. And I think Marvel has fallen into that trap of everything is necessary viewing for so long. And for somebody like us who, you know, likes to watch everything or eventually will get to watching everything, that's not a problem. But when you get to the casual audience member who, again, has now had to pick and choose, it's like, okay, you know, I can't subscribe to Disney Plus for the whole year. So, you know, maybe I'll just watch a couple things here and there. I can only go out and see, you know, 1 or 2 movies every so often. So I'm just going to go see Deadpool this year and that's it, you know, and they don't have an idea of what's going on in these smaller little projects. They didn't watch Agatha, or they're, you know, didn't watch this project here or that project there. They're not going to go see a movie that they're maybe not super duper interested in, and then they're going to miss out on a whole big chunk of this story. And I don't love that.
I think they're honestly in such a tough space, because I agree with everything you just said. I do crave sometimes more solo outings and more so like smaller scale stories. But then on the other side of it, I feel like we're also craving connectivity. Like I think we're also craving the like wanting to know where things are leading to. Which actually I think my excitement for the MCU boosted after they announced the Doomsday stuff. Yes, I have my problems with that whole thing, but it was so nice to be like, we are finally, feels like we're moving somewhere. Like we are finally like them moving forward on Fantastic Four also did the same, where it's like, no, we're not standing. We're not just in the same spot. We're moving towards the end of this arc finally. So that's been nice. So I think they need to find that balance of feeling like it's connected, feeling like it's part of a larger story, feeling like these characters live in the same world, while also being standalone. And that's a tough road to walk, especially no one's ever done this before. Like now we're getting other people trying to do the same thing, but for the MCU, like they were the first to really do this. They are traveling this road on their own at the moment to this era, like a 10-year long, I guess, universe that's connected like this. Never been a thing before. So they're going in blind. They're like going through the formation and be like, I don't know how to go about this. And I think they're learning as they go.
The thing with that though, with how standalone the Penguin is, there are so many people that I've spoken to that don't even know it's happening, that didn't even know it was on. That was just like, oh, there's a show about the Penguin, really? It has been a shock.
Well, if you're not on the internet, you're not really getting a lot of this advertisement though. Like I don't watch cable stuff much anymore outside of when we have to watch Superman on the CW. Like I don't see ads for these things like you used to. There's no, subscribe to Max now and go watch the Penguin.
I think I think so much of it is like TikTok and like Spotify or like an Instagram. Like that's where the modern day stuff. I guarantee you, I did not hear one single ad for the Penguin. Like anything I saw for the Penguin was on my own, like on my own Twitter feed, but never saw like a trailer, you know, in front of a YouTube video, on a TikTok, whatever. You know, I did see. I saw Agatha. I heard Agatha trailers on my Spotify all day. So, I mean, that could also be just DC just being very bad at marketing, like they always are. Like they're not, like Joker 2 wasn't marketed very well. Like I feel like their last
that I saw ads for on TV.
Yeah, I don't know.
Also, I think like when we have to like when we're trying to figure out what they're going to, how they're explaining like the multiverse and whatnot, I think at a certain point it becomes irrelevant in a way because of the fact that it's not always the same way. Like someone's perspective is different from another perspective, and you get kind of confusing. There's no like, what's the word I'm trying to think? It's not like the same.
So you can be consistent though if you set out some clear, specific rules.
Yeah,
but then everybody can get on board with that.
But at the same time, no one's telling them that this is the legit. What's happening right now, and no one's following that rule book. They're making their own opinions on the same subject. And
sorry,
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say like Phase 4 and 5, more so 4. It was very apparent Kevin Feige was very stretched thin, and he's like, okay, You focus on this thing, you focus on this thing, you focus on this thing. I'm going to try and look at all of these things, but I'm not always going to be able to pay attention to every single thing. So that's why they have rules, they have rules, they have rules, they have different rules.
Yeah.
It is hard. And you know what? Next year we will be hitting 50 MCU projects, not including the like Netflix Netflix stuff. Like that's besides that. That's canon now. But besides that, just the Marvel Studios and stuff like that, 50 projects deep. That's insane. That's no one's ever done that. Like, that's crazy. There's going to be continuity stuff. There's going to be things that don't line up. It's going to happen. But I do hope in this next era, they seem to be shrinking their like kaleidoscope of what they're focusing on. Like shrinking it down a bit. It seems like after Secret Wars, I think they can basically reboot their Bible and focus on a different, a more like continuity driven Bible that basically Kevin Feige has more hold over instead of letting everyone do their own thing, and to where everyone has a different opinion about what they're looking at. I am not to stick on this too long because I do know we have to get into the proper shows in a minute here, but like I'm also kind of worried again because what Bob Iger just confirmed, what they just confirmed they're getting a new president for Disney in 2026.
Yeah, I did.
So that's like, are we going to go through this again? Like, is he going to fix all this up just for someone else to come in and be like, nah, whatever, just do what you want, guys?
At the end of the day, I just want quality over quantity.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want a million projects coming out every single year that are just kind of not, you know, bottom of the barrel.
Right.
Just need to get something out to get it out.
Right.
I would much rather wait. You go ahead.
I will say, like, if they ever do a Meet the Robinsons too, I'm like all for this new president. If they do that, I'm like, here's my money, just take it, because I've been waiting for that sequel for like since it came out.
What a crazy reference! I was not expecting a Meet the Robinson reference.
No. Can we also talk about like that article that came out and like how they want to use Miles after Secret Wars, and then Tom Holland has also been talking about the legacy of Miles and how he wants to like share Spider-Man.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I did see that. Something else interesting that kind of crosses over with that, funny enough, that I saw was an interview with the guy who played Vic on Penguin, talking about the character of Miles Morales and how there was a time where he saw Spider-Verse and he was like, "Oh, I think I could play that character." But obviously, a lot of time has passed now, and they're most likely going to go a lot younger. But thinking about, I don't know, but think about like where he was when he was on like Runaways or something.
Right.
He would have been perfect.
I could have seen that.
He would have been perfect if they were to do Miles then. I think they're most likely going to probably end up going with a younger, relatively unknown actor.
What's
I want
funny is that
we
we even have a Miles in the MCU, just like we haven't seen him.
Right. There've been references.
But if they do the Secret Wars thing, they could bring a fully fledged Miles Morales Spider-Man from another universe. They could actually bring the animation of Beyond the Spider-Verse, that Miles Morales, into the MCU, and just have him as another a live action actor.
I think it would be cool if they interacted during Secret Wars, but I don't. Yeah, I agree. I don't think that would work.
I mean,
the main continuity. I think they need to create their own brand new version of this character.
That would be nice, but I'm just saying, like, they could.
He would stay animated.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, because the live action Prowler stayed live action in an animated universe, so it stands to reason.
The reason why I'm saying like not necessarily is because in another Marvel project, like Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man, every time that Peter went to another universe, they drew him differently.
Yeah, it's different.
So we've got live action Nicolas Cage's Spider-Man Noir as well, so that's that also throws a wrench in there a little bit. That's going to be whether or not he's the version that is in those movies. That's true. But I think when they do bring Miles in, I want them to take notes from the PlayStation game as well, and having Peter be the mentor, the teacher, Spider-Man in his prime, showing Miles what to do. I think it's, kind of old way of thinking to be like, you can't have these two versions of Spider-Man coexisting. I think you need to have Peter there, at least at the beginning, whether he goes off and retires or leaves Miles to, protect his section of New York while Peter's still protecting, a main portion. Yeah, exactly. I think that's the best route to go. Eventually, if you want to do Ultimate Goblin and kill him off in like 10 years, when Tom Holland's done and he's, ready to move on to different things, go for it.
Yeah, I think for that young actor's sake, you have to do that. You can't be like, oh, our Spider-Man's dead. Now there's this new one.
Yeah.
The people will riot. Like that young actor would get attacked so hard. You need to do it like Insomniac style. There are both at the same time, both operating. And I think
and not just for one game either. Like it has to be multiple multiple movies and multiple like team ups and multiple like chemistry for them to be like, okay, we're okay with him taking over if you want to step back.
Yeah, no.
The interesting thing for me, sorry to interrupt, Darren, is that like we're not so far into Spider-Man. I need to say Superman. Spider-Man's legacy that it's so like grandiose that he has so much of a suit to fill, into right. He's just one. People like people don't even know who Peter Parker is, and Spider-Man's still a fledgling superhero. So it's going to be interesting how they balance that. Plus, the age that they're going to have to go for Miles is going to be very interesting and create some very interesting size dynamics, and is going to really make everybody question child endangerment.
But like,
go ahead.
Sorry. What's crazy about that? What's crazy about that is Tom Holland has now played Spider-Man longer than Chris Evans has played Captain America. So like, Tom Holland's been doing it for a minute. Like he's been playing Spider-Man for how many years now? But you're right, he's still young. Like the character in canon is still very young. He hasn't had the experience that I'd love at least another trilogy in Spider-Man movies alone. Like I still want Spider-Man, 4, 5, and 6, not to mention crossover movies and stuff like that. Like I want him to be a Spider-Man for a long time now. I don't want another reboot. But also you also have to take into consideration Tom Holland and being like, how long do you want him to do this? Because like, look at it right now. We have 3 confirmed for him right now. Like we got Avengers Doomsday, Avengers Secret Wars, and it's Spider-Man 4. Like that's 3 alone. That's it. Like I
think there's 2 more that's combined with that too.
I just mean like what's confirmed right now. Like,
what's confirmed right now, but
he's probably in the Fantastic Four project. Yeah, like he's probably doing stuff like that too.
And he's probably got Spider-Man 4, Spider-Man 5, and 6 in his belt too.
Yeah, we gotta see. Like
So you don't think we have him till he's 90 either?
I mean,
we need that Spidey Pool movies too.
He has the golden ticket of Stan Lee saying, "This is my Spider-Man. This is what I envision him as." He has that golden ticket. So
okay. We do have to move on because we have 3 shows we got to talk about still. But I did just want to reference. I did look it up. The actor who plays Victor is the age 27, so probably too old for that. Which is even funnier though, because he's only 1 year younger than Tom Holland, which is kind of funny. Okay, yes, let's actually start with. Obviously, there's no Agatha this week. Let's start with the Penguin. Let's start with the Penguin this week. It's the main show, the main dish. It gave us the series finale. I saw an article came out today that they're maybe considering a 2nd season. I hope that's not true. I think this ended perfectly. We'll talk about that here in this week's episode. I will say, Darth, you look like a different person now. I like it. Thank you. Throw me off every time I see it, though. I'm like, oh my gosh, who just entered my live stream? Who's this stranger?
Clean-shaven Lex Luthor.
Yeah. I love it.
You have not been watching this show, right? I'll get out of here. No, I was kidding.
You've been missing out for sure.
Add it to your watch list with Gotham Knights. Come on.
Uh, I haven't even finished past 5, episode 5 of Gotham
That's
Knights.
when it gets good. No, it's okay.
No.
Darth,
I
let's start
gave
with
it
you this
5
time.
tries.
Darth, let's start with you this time. Obviously, the series,
Oh, wow.
as it stands, the series finale of The Penguin. What's your thoughts on the final episode?
Well, let's get the obvious out of the way. I was wrong, right? Like, made some predictions last week of where things could be going. But, my God, not only did they just surpass expectations in every way, they shattered us, they rattled us, they took us to despair. You know what I mean? It was a series finale, but it just wrought so much anguish that it wasn't a positive, joyous end to a story, and more the fool us for thinking it would be. You know, the villain, the villain won.
Yes,
and that's it. And God damn him, God fucking damn you, guy. It's so good. It's so good. I'm sorry. I loved it. I cannot praise it enough.
I talked about last week how I liked how they still were able to keep Agatha a villain despite it being the show about her. They really doubled down with the Penguin, where like they don't try to redeem the Penguin. They never once were like, oh, maybe he's. There's a couple times where like, oh, maybe he's not that bad of a guy, and then it's like, oh no, he is a horrible person. He is. And we can dive into like why he's a horrible person, because I think they go into that in a very fascinating way. But like, he's a bad guy. He's a horrible guy. Batman should throw him off a roof. Like, there's no redeeming qualities about this guy at the end of the day. And in some ways we called. Like, in some ways I kind of feel like it somewhat ended the way we thought, but then also did some very interesting things that we did not think would happen, which I think is great. I think it's great writing when they can. When we're on here for 8 weeks straight trying to figure out what's happening, and they, throw some wrenches in our predictions. I think it's fun.
And didn't they do that? My God. Wow.
Taz,
sorry, go on.
Dude, this was insane. And I think what added to it as well was just the overall internet reaction. The moment I went online after the episode, the big thing was all anybody was talking about.
I was spoiled. Yep.
They were just like, "Come on,
really?
man!" Like,
yeah.
They were like, really? They actually did this? But it's like, and I loved how people were upset at it, but they were upset at the character. They were upset at the character for being a villain, and that's exactly what they've told us from the beginning. Oswald Cobb, not Cobblepot. Oswald Cobb is a bad guy. The Penguin is a villain. He was a bad guy in the Batman. He was a bad guy throughout this series. Yes, he had, some things that, you saw a softer side to him, taking care of his mother, that kind of, I guess, father-son relationship that was developed with Victor throughout the season as well. But ultimately, we get to see at the end, the Penguin is only out for himself. He is only looking after number one. And if anybody is going to be a detriment to that, whether they are a threat to his power or a threat to his, I guess, just conviction as the now new kind of kingpin in Gotham, if they are going to hold him back, even if it's somebody that he respects and somebody that he would like to have by his side, he can't. And I think that just the way that it happened, the just very nice mirror to the end of the first episode where they're just chilling, drinking the slushies. Now they're chilling. They've accomplished their goal, but Penguin can't take him along on this journey with him. And I think that was really the perfect end for this character. I know we talked about it a lot leading up to it. Should Victor die? Should he survive? That kind of thing. I think if they didn't go down this route, if Penguin would have let him go, if he would have kept him, as an underling, I think it would have shown some weakness. I think it would have almost doubled back a little bit on what they were trying to tell us throughout this whole series, and especially in this final episode, is like you said, is he is not a good guy. He killed his brothers. He kind of manipulate manipulated and strung along his mother for his entire life.
Yeah.
She
Okay,
went as
I
far
did not
as
know that, but okay, now I do.
That's the thing you didn't hear about. I didn't watch it until this afternoon, so I had heard like
No.
I heard something
Wow.
like I saw the poster, like I don't know if you saw the poster that DC put out where it's like Victor blah 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 is missing and like, they're on the
and then
and it's like
the comments were
what's
just
that
like,
mean?
Oh no.
yeah, and the comments were like, oh no, like don't do this to us, don't do this to us. And then there's people also that are coping hard. They're like, oh no, he's still alive. He's gonna come back and he's gonna be Victor's
No,
ass.
that was a
me.
crack. That was a crack.
Solomon Grundy.
That was a full-on crack. Can we also talk about the fact that we've said all of this, okay, and at not a single point did we see Colin Farrell in that performance. It was all Oz Cobb.
I don't know if he's gonna win because
good.
there's been a lot of great performances here. He needs to be nominated for best like lead actor in.
He needs
TV
an
show.
Oscar. He needs an Oscar for this.
Oh, he can't get an Oscar unfortunately, but he deserves it. Like
he also needs like a medal from the CSI of how he stayed in that suit for long hours.
Yeah,
that's like torture for.
Yeah, no, he does deserve an Emmy. He's gonna get nominated. I know that for sure. I'm afraid they won't give it to him because they are afraid to give out like comic book shows for stuff. I feel like a lot of the times.
Like, yes, it's a comic book show, but it's just a gritty noir,
right?
You know, mob show.
Even Francis's character and Sophia.
Sophia's bro.
Those, all three of them need BAFTAs thrown at them.
Yeah.
Like for just the amount of quality that they brought. It was insane. The end. I'm sorry. Can we just the prison? Not even like. Oh my god! Like the fact that like yes, you got everything you have been asking for like 30 years, if not longer, and it is now your tomb. It is your living prison.
Yeah.
And the like the evil genie's wish. I mean, you got what you wanted, but at what cost?
Yeah,
exactly.
You know, it cost you everything. Everything.
Yeah, no, I like. Yeah, because I feel like that's kind of what we been theorizing for a couple weeks, where it's like the Penguin would win, but at what cost? Like, what does he have to sacrifice? And he does on the show.
I'm talking about Francis.
Oh, gotcha.
His mother. Like, that is so crazy, right? Because the only thing that stopped her from agreeing to infanticide was the fact that, I could be out of the penthouse if I let my train killer out there, right? And then boom, you get the penthouse, love. You get the penthouse. But gosh darn it, does it cost you?
And I think it also kind of parallels to where Sophia ends up.
Yes, for sure.
Both Oz's mom and Sophia are now, like they said in the kind of breakdown after the episode, a fate far worse than death.
Yeah.
You know, Sophia ends up right back where she started. It was all kind of for naught.
Yeah.
And she's right back in Arkham. But things are a little bit different. I think things are, I think she's got something maybe in the works. Obviously, Julian's still there. She gets the letter from Catwoman at the end as well, which I was like, I wasn't even really expecting it. I know we talked about it. They're like, oh yeah, they're sisters. Like something should come of that. So I don't know what's gonna, go on there.
It would be Selena to extend the olive branch. That's sweet.
Yeah, I kind of have a theory. I said after the Batman Part 1, I was like, give Catwoman her own show. Give her own movie or show. What if she appears in whatever project that would be? Like if she gets her own project, movie, show, whatever, and then Sophia can appear there, and they can almost be like the sister show kind of thing. Like those two cousin whatever in Gotham, I think could be really fun if they want to go that direction. But that'd also just on that whole thing, like I just think it is really cool that she spent the whole season or her whole past escaping Arkham, getting out of that situation for something she didn't do. Like she didn't deserve to be there the first time, Now she kind of does, you know, like now she does. Like she's there for reasons that she did commit this time, which I think is kind of a nice full circle. A sad moment, right? It's not. It feels terrible, but also she does deserve it. She's done some bad things within the season.
I tell you what, she doesn't deserve. Okay, is that creepy ass Julian, that doctor, just leching at her constantly, in and out, just trying to gain some kind of weird sadistic approval from her. It's creepy.
We got to be going somewhere with him, right? Like, it feels
Scarecrow.
Like he's got to be something. I feel like something. He seems like he's like, I don't know, plotting something. Like he's some kind of mastermind behind the scenes.
I don't know. He feels too subordinate to become something. I mean, like Riddler was like super incel-y, but he still had like enough rage to light the city on fire.
Right.
You know, but. I don't know. Like, there's too much of a whipped dog of Julian for me to feel like I could take him ever seriously as a threat.
I mean, I think what should happen is Hugo Strange to come in and just kill him and take his place.
I would like Hugo in this universe. I think he did very well.
I do wonder, like, if Sophia is the start of. Well, not even the start. It's the continuation of villains kind of being dispensed. If we think about the Joker and the Riddler in Arkham, at which point Batman 2 or 3 could have like a jailbreak, and then boom, we have mass panic in Arkham and masked villains everywhere. Because I think if Sophia came out, I think this time she might just fully go crazy. Because I don't think she's just going to go straight back to Italy. I think she's like, vengeance, you know? So I think she's going to come back with a mask or something.
Yeah.
Well, and also, didn't we hear that there's a Joker series maybe happening?
They debunked that. James Gunn said,
it's not.
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like, that's
Thank
BS.
God.
Yes,
Okay.
I also agree. I would have been a little... Of all...
Really?
Not to say I don't like the Joker, but out of all those characters, and if you want him for part 3, whatever, I can accept that. I want other people, but I can accept it. Out of all the characters to give a show, it being Joker, I'd be like, no, there's so many other characters. So many we could focus on. I would have been pretty disappointed. But, no, I mean, honestly, though, like, shout out to Matt Reeves. Like, you know, we've seen a lot of these universes get started. We've seen Arrow. We've seen, the Arrowverse. We've seen the CW. MCU and the Arrowverse and the DCU. We're now 2 projects into this universe, and I'd say he's made 2 pretty much 10 out of 10 projects for me. Like, he's made 2 very, very well-made projects. That's a great start.
And there's so
What's
much
crazy is like, this is just a fan of his. Like, some guy saw the Batman and went, oh, I could do something great with this.
Yeah.
And got to run with it.
Right.
You know what I mean? With Matt Reeves, like, obviously at the like the Kevin Feige of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's insane. All of this from Colin Farrell's performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how good it was.
Yeah, and like, listen, like, we've had conversations about this universe where it's like, oh yes, it's not super comic booky, you know, it's more street level and stuff like that. But listen, I also think this is exactly what, like, the comic book community needs. I think they need to see, yes, James Gunn is doing something very cool over there. He's doing something very comic booky. I think that's great. Also, I do think people need to see there are more to these comic book stories than just what we've seen over and over again. Like, he's doing something very different. I think he's giving what a certain section of the film community is like, oh, these superhero projects, they're doing blah, blah, blah. And I feel like it's like, oh no, you are changing the representation of what a project can be. And I think we're still getting that. I think we're getting that with Logan. I think we're getting that with, like, the Batman, even like Guardians 3 and stuff like that. Like, you're changing the name of what a superhero project can be. And I think that's really cool.
And I think there's also... Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say the context that we got with the club scene this week from last week, and played by the older actress as opposed to the younger actress because of, like, the way that the scene was being portrayed, like, showed the years what the years have done to her. Do you know what I mean? Being in that moment. And it was phenomenal. And especially having the person that even after his mother, like, brings all the walls down, is like, I know I should have let Rex kill you. Like, the person he idolized was going to just suggested, like, taking him out and offered, you know, and was going to do it. And then even after that, still idolizes him to the fact that he still gets the same car again, you know?
Yeah.
And then seeing the Penguin so low and tied to that chair, and the fact that he was letting her finger get cut off, he was going to stick into the life so goddamn much that it took kind of.
I'm
just
glad
just,
that
you spineless bastard.
I'm glad they brought that little, like, what was it, like a cigar cutter or something back to use it to chop the finger off. It's like, I was like, I knew it. I knew that was going to come back.
I think, I think Penguin's whole thing is like I think the people's representation of, or like people's image of himself is stronger than his love for them itself. Like, he would rather the people in his life look at him fondly than have those people at all, or keep those people safe. You know what I mean? Like, he really doesn't care. Like his love is so
superficial.
It is superficial. It's all
narcissistic.
Yeah, they're like, it's all on such a surface level of just like, but this is what I want. This is what I need. This is gonna best, like, and he doesn't see why it's wrong. Like, he is a sick person. He is. He doesn't know it. He is a sick person. He is someone, by definition, that should be helped by Arkham. Like, he's one of the people that should be like, there is something wrong with this person from a very young age. Let's get him some help. Let's get him in there. Like, obviously, we know Arkham never works. We know it's a corrupt system that just beats him down. But this is hey, this is why Arkham should exist and why it should help people. Like, his whole things with his brothers, and in his mind is like, but this is what needs to be done. Like, I need to have the love for my mother all to myself. I need to do this. Like, it's what has to be done. His thing with Vic at the end, being like, no, for this to all work, I need to kill this kid because it's what's in my best interest. He sees nothing wrong with that. Same thing with his mother at the end. Like, his mother wanted him to kill her if anything happened. Like, if he was in this state. He's like, no, because he's my mom. I'm not going to do that because that's what I want. I need my mom.
I want to make her say she's proud of me. Can we also as well say that you are absolutely right, and that not even a third option was discussed of let's call the police and get him sent to Arkham. It was either let's nurture this killer instinct or just whack him.
Yeah. But
Which I think shows that everybody in Gotham's kind of messed up to some extent.
Yeah, like, his mother, while maybe not a monster, is probably not the best adjusted human being ever. Like, she is like but again, like, I've said this for weeks now, the way they've been they've been showing the corruption at such a deep level in the show is so good. Like, they are showing it. There's not a single good person in the show, I don't think. Every person, no matter, even Victor, like, we love Victor. He's easily the best character in the show in terms of like morality wise, I would say.
Murderer.
Even but again, like, he's such a nice kid. He still killed somebody. He still decided not to. Like, he had a chance to escape and he didn't, right? Like, he had that choice. But also, do we blame him? Like, in the situation he's in, to an extent, I think I would have escaped. But, like, he feels like maybe this is.
I would have gone with the girl.
Of, like, But I don't know. I don't know. I think it's so cool to see the corruption at such a low level, and I think we're going to go back into Gotham in part 2 and be like, I get how it's like this. I understand how it got to this point because it's everywhere. It's hard. You can't escape it, and it's just getting worse.
What's just hit me, right, is how interesting the Penguin is in his choices, right? Because he would have 1,000,000% killed Sophia on the tarmac if it served his interest, but he spoke to the councilman before and set up the narrative that he needed to follow, right?
Yeah.
He also kills Victor because he knows too much about him and has been too much with him, but allows Sophia, who knows just as much, if not more, because Victor didn't know about the brothers. So Sophia, who knows infinitely more, is still alive And what is just because you feel that she's under the thin veil of security because she's locked in Arkham, that you think your secrets are safe?
I think maybe he's also banking on the fact that even if she goes ahead and tells people things, that they're going to be like, oh, she's crazy, like, don't believe her. I think that's going to be his kind of out to that.
Maybe. I just feel like that's too easy to squash. Do you know what I mean? Because, say, for example, if he becomes enough of a threat that the Batman just wants to talk to her, do you know what I mean? Like 5 minutes is all she's going to need.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. But again, I also...
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go ahead. For me?
Also, sorry, I was right. Again, I was right. This show should have been called Oedipus Oz. Okay? Because the way it ended with his escort lady friend wearing that goddamn dress saying, oh, mommy told me you're proud of me, and you know they're going to be banging later.
Yep, I was very uncomfortable when I was like, oh, he just hired an actress to be his mom. Okay. And I was like, oh, that's they've done weird things together. They've done...
Yeah. I done called it, didn't I? Yeah, everyone thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
So, one other thing about that, too. I didn't realize this, but the character's name is, Eve Carlo? And Carlo is the same last name as Clayface. Was it Basil Carlo? So some people are saying she's this universe's version of Clayface, and instead of, obviously, the, powers, supernatural, changing the way that you look in that way, she is Clayface because she can put on so many different faces throughout.
That's good. Oh my god! Yeah. I'm geeking out over that. That's so good.
I love that theory. I love that.
Yeah, that's a fun theory. I don't know if I put her as like a main villain, but that is kind of like a fun take on potentially. Like if we're in this little grounded world, some nice little filmmaking parallels or whatever. That's fun.
Well, she does do whatever it takes. She just says, to protect her family.
Whatever it takes for the role.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think.
So good.
Like, I do feel like it was a very straightforward kind of final episode. Like, I feel like things, for the most part, kind of fell into place in similar ways that we thought.
Yeah.
Like not in the context that we all thought. Like, we said the mom was going to die. And, like, while technically not dead, she's relatively dead. Like, her body's still here, but she's dead. She's,
her mind is gone. Her mind is gone.
We did think something was going to happen to Victor. We didn't think he was going to do it. Although I think I said something similar in like episode 1. Like I did say episode 1. I did not think he was making it out the season alive. I did think. I thought. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, just that you did. Yeah. Sorry, you did.
Yeah. Like I just felt like he had to not be around for the Penguin to become who he was going to be. Like I don't know. I felt that.
That theory was going around forever, and I think people were also drawing comparisons to The Sopranos, where a similar thing happened to a similar character. But yeah, I think another big thing as well that I saw people point out, I didn't notice it when I was watching the episode, but going back and looking at it, the curtains in the courtroom look like owls.
Mm-hmm.
Owls in a courtroom. The Court of Owls. And we've heard references.
No.
Gotham Knights.
Yeah, close enough. Knights. Welcome back, Gotham Knights.
Our agenda will stay. I mean, listen, like, I like the show way more than I thought I was going to. I really did. Like, I always thought it was going to be a good show. I was always going to be really good. I'll be honest, I thought it was going to be a little bit boring, though. Like, I thought it was going to be a very typical kind of mob, gangster kind of stories I'm not typically into. Like, I've never seen The Sopranos, and it's probably really good. I probably would love it at this point. Maybe I've just been very close-minded to these type of projects, but no, it was better than I thought it would be. And I've been seeing a lot of people say this is the best DC show of all time. And I think in terms of like quality, like in terms of like quality filmmaking and stuff like that, like well put together. People are like comparing it to like this is what Daredevil was for Marvel for so many years, and I might not disagree. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
I definitely do agree with the technical aspect of it. I think from a technical filmmaking and structural aspect, I think this is probably the best show quality-wise that DC has ever produced. Is it my favorite story? Is it the best story?
Yeah.
That is a completely different question. I would say no. However, I really, really enjoyed it. I would definitely rank it up there as one of my favorites. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would coming into it. But is it the best DC show of all time? I don't think so. And I think it would be tough to be with only 8 episodes as well.
That's the thing. I think the Penguin has an advantage and a disadvantage in that regard. Because, like, the thing with DC TV over the years is, we've all watched those shows. There's a lot of really, really, really good DC TV. The thing is their consistency is like a roller coaster. Like, I would probably say Flash Season 1 is probably one of my favorite seasons of television in general. I think it's amazing. Doom Patrol Season 1 is great. Arrow Season 1, 2, and 5 is great. Like, there's so many great things. But then there's also, like, Arrow Season 4, and then Flash Season 7, and, like, Doom Patrol has its ups and downs, and there's episodes of these shows that aren't always the greatest of all time. So it's like, in that regard, potentially, because the Penguin's one season. That's all there is to judge. It can't get worse from here. It's just what we have. So in terms of live action, possibly. Like, I think the only thing that's kind of coming near for me right now is Stargirl, because I don't think Stargirl ever had a bad episode. I think that was very consistent. And then the animated stuff.
Peacemaker didn't either. Peacemaker was perfect.
There.
Yeah,
and then, like, the animated stuff. So, like, Batman the Animated Series, and, like, I can't even say Young Justice, because Young Justice is another scenario where I'd say season 1 and 2.
Ups and downs.
Seasons 1 and 2, I think, is some of the best superhero stuff ever made. Like, I think it's perfect. And then it's like, ups and downs, but
yeah,
which is good. Like, I think most shows have that. Like, I'm not bashing on these shows for having that. Most shows have ups and downs. It's part of being human. Having mistakes is part of the game. But I don't disagree. I think it's very high up. Like, if I did a superhero tier list, it'd probably be like a very, very high A, or like a maybe even S tier for me, I'd say.
Hands down.
We should do that. Actually, that sounds like a fun episode or something.
That's not. Yeah.
Because genuinely, even
that would be great. We'd be here for.
There wasn't a performance I didn't buy. You know what I mean? Everybody's character felt like they belonged. Like Link, Mr. Zhao, all of the underlings in the Gigante or Falcone Empire.
Even Julian.
Well, this is the thing. He did so good at being a creep, and just like the way he would leer at her was creepy, So yeah, he did so good at making me hate him. Because I don't think he's actually like that. You know what I mean? He's probably like a really stand-up guy who looks at people normally. He just did so good. So good. It was so weird. Oh.
Okay, we're gonna try and wrap up the Penguin. Is there anything last minute stuff? Obviously, last episode, probably of all time. Any kind of final thoughts or feeling before we move on?
No monocle for the Penguin. 0 out of 10.
No umbrella. I thought like an umbrella was.
Well, there were umbrellas and there was a top hat.
Yeah, there's a top hat and there's an umbrella, so you gotta give him that.
All right.
To be fair, there might have been a monocle attached to the outfit. We just didn't see it. Maybe.
Yeah.
I guess question for all of you guys: where would you rank Colin Farrell's Penguin on your list of previous Penguins?
I'm sorry, he's top. It's not even like a recency bias thing, because like Danny DeVito is iconic, okay? But the amount of time that we've had with Colin Farrell has allowed us to see like not just like a third dimension, but fourth and fifth with this guy. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy the journey we've been on with this kid. Like, again, from the being a kid, that little mad guy, you know what I mean? Like with his little hobbling along and everything, and oh my god, yeah. No, easily Colin
I
Farrell.
think that I've just only seen Colin Farrell in the Batman. I'm going to still give it to Danny DeVito.
Listen, Colin Farrell, I love you. Probably one of the best comic book performances we've seen in a long time. But Gotham is hard. Gotham, I had that guy for 100 episodes.
Fuck. Yeah, Gotham. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Gotham's one. What was I thinking?
Like I saw something say that these two characters are just different characters. Like they are polar opposites from each other in terms of like performance and who their characters are, and just like the parallels. And maybe I can find a tweet in a second, but it's like they would hate each other. They would absolutely be on the street.
Oh yeah,
for like an hour. And listen, 100 episodes is hard to beat, but Colin Farrell has the best performance. I don't think there's anyone like disputing that. Like it just. Oh, I don't know. Both are great though. Both are fantastic. Like,
I'd have to give it to Robin Lord Taylor from Gotham as Penguin. I think
Really?
hands down, he's my favorite.
You haven't
He's my
seen
favorite for
Gotham,
sure.
have you?
No, probably not.
oh,
Yeah.
Darth, it's so well. I won't say
You
it's so
are
good.
missing.
I've seen
You're
enough
so
of it to
missing
know.
out.
I've seen enough to know that I don't want to watch it.
Listen,
You're wow.
It's gonna be.
listen.
You
no,
are-
I have my
Gotham will always have a special place in my heart.
I have my issues with
For
Gotham,
many reasons.
right? Like it's not
Oh,
always
gosh.
good, but when it is good, it's probably because of the Penguin and Riddler. Like those two are
And
so-
Joker.
And the Batman. I mean, Bruce Wayne. He was
Dude,
also the highlight of that.
It's super random. Did you see the dude that played Bruce on Gotham? He posted something like today or whatever.
did
It
he?
was like, this is what Gen Z Batman would be like. He puts on a bat cowl and like does his best Batman voice, and it is freaking hilarious.
I mean, hot take. David's still my favorite live action Batman, primarily.
Well,
because,
Bruce Wayne. David
Yeah,
technically didn't wear the suit.
but he's the only one
as
we've
well.
seen in live action that's been doing it for that long. Like he's the
And I
only.
think that show also gave me my favorite Alfred.
Yeah,
Yeah, that by far my favorite Alfred.
his scene where he's like, "I will not kill," is like top 5 Batman moments for me. Like it's fantastic.
Yeah, after he
Darth
killed
is looking
Alfred.
at us like, "You guys are crazy."
He may or may not have killed Alfred and dipped him in a Lazarus pit, though. I can neither confirm nor deny that.
Okay, we have to move on.
Sean
not-
Pertwee, isn't it?
What's that?
Sean
Yeah.
Pertwee, is that Alfred?
Yeah.
Well, that man is a national treasure. So
Oh,
I will say no disparaging remarks because
except for
he is
Gotham.
beloved.
Listen,
Yeah.
I mean,
He's great.
Go-
He's awesome.
Gotham has my favorite Bruce, has my favorite Alfred, has my favorite Selena Kyle, has my
As my favorite
Riddler,
Joker.
Yeah, like Riddler, Penguin. Only person who's probably not my favorite is I guess probably Joker, but I also have a good Joker, so
What
What's
about
funny
Chris
is,
Moody?
Cameron Monaghan is amazing.
he's fantastic.
What's
Yeah, he's
funny
fantastic.
is he this Joker in Gotham like made me almost debunk Heath Ledger as the top Joker. That's how bad. That's how good he was.
And
There's
I
no
think
He
in a
almost
way
made me
they,
dethrone him.
like-
And I'm
I think
like,
in a way
yeah,
they kind of
cool.
did Three Jokers better than the Three Jokers comic as well.
Mhm. Well, I mean, I think he's clearly better than the Joker movies, which is kind of crazy. That like the
Yeah.
big, like a movie that's actually allowed to
definitely
use
by
the
far
name
better
Joker.
than those.
Like they're like because they weren't allowed to say Joker. Like they weren't
Yeah.
allowed to say Joker. They weren't allowed to say Harley Quinn, which sucks. And then the movies did it. And it's like, yeah, that kind of not always great. Like it's not so.
Yeah, I don't know what they what they would have lost by calling him Joker or calling Echo Harley Quinn. Like that would,
What-
you know.
We're still dealing with this. Like on My Adventures with Superman for first season, they weren't allowed to call him Lex Luthor. They're like, no, you can't use Lex Luthor. So it's like, oh, hey, here's this.
Alexander.
Yeah, that's why he would like. Me and Taz called this like his first appearance. We're like, is that Lex? And we're like, no, probably not. That's why he was so different because they were literally sneaking him in. They weren't allowed to put him in there. They're like, it's just a business guy. He's not Lex Luthor. And then season 2, like, gotcha, bitches. He's already in here. Okay, moving on to our second show. I think this is an only me and Darth show, and that's Helluva Boss. Now, we don't have to spend too much time on this one.
No.
I've been-
Next time we will, yeah. But this time, no.
I really love this episode. This was episode 10 of the season. I thought the season was done. I thought episode 9 was the end of season 2. I was like, okay, now we're going on to season 3. Nope, we have a whole back half of the season, apparently.
Yeah, we say this every time. Like, I keep thinking they were done. Because I'm going to say it, right? I love Busy Pop or whatever her channel is, or what you want to call her, okay? But she has a worse uploading schedule than both Superman and Lois and Invincible combined. It's horrendous being a fan, because you're there chomping at the bit, like, give me more, give me more, give me more, give me more, give me more. And it's just so sparsely dropped out. And it's like you literally have to find it.
Right. You know what? I think that's kind of valid, though. Like, again, she's running. I don't know the operation going on. Like, again, I'm a very new fan to this fandom. I don't know exactly who she has on her team or what's going on with that. I also know she's mostly independently owned, though. Like, what she's doing on that show, I think the fact that she's putting that quality of content on YouTube for free, relatively free, is insane.
Very lucky.
Like that right there is the future of, I think, television shows. I think stuff like that and like Hot Ones and stuff like that are just having their TV shows and putting them on YouTube for us to watch for free is insane to me. That's so crazy. I recently got, like, you watched the show much earlier than me. Okay, backstory really quickly. We did Hazbin Hotel at the beginning of the year. One of our favorite shows we talked about this year. Like, our journey through those 4 weeks that we were watching that, some of my favorite things we've talked about on the show. Like, deep discussions that we went into on such a silly little show were crazy. Like, I couldn't believe it. And I'm wanting to hop on now for this one because I just got caught up in the last couple months when season 2 had just kind of wrapped up. So I didn't wait as long as everybody else. Like, when I got caught up, they had those shorts that had come out. So I didn't have a large break in between. But this episode, I actually think this is a really good, like, carrying over from the last episode, because last episode was very much like very trauma dumping, very much characters in certain spots, and this was like almost like a rehab episode for them to be like, oh, they went, like, Blitz went through something rough, like he's going through a rough time. It's been a while since we had another episode, kind of transitioning us, I think, into this back half of the season. I think was kind of fun. What was your thoughts on episode
10? As you said, it's needed, very much needed. I am incredibly impatient on the matter, and I want them to just get over themselves and just be in love and just be with each other. You know what I mean? Because we know that's the end game. We know that's where it's going. It's just like, who says I'm sorry first? You know? Mm-hmm. But like you said, it is needed. I just hope that it's not dragged out too long, that it's not another 3, 4, 5 episodes of Blitz playing games and Stolas with that person at the party, because we all know that that's not going to be going anywhere.
Sure.
Just forget it. Get them together and then start dealing with some shit, because them being together actually means something, right? Sure. It actually has the potential to change the dynamics of hell, right? Because he himself is doing that through the business that they have, because imps, as we know, don't serve themselves, don't employ their own kind or any kind. They are the employees. That's their whole thing. And so there's like a horrendous hierarchy or a certain system that puts people in certain ways. And the fact that we have in the circle, is it Lust Circle, Blitz's old best friend, the spring guy, you know what I mean,
the clown,
and and then Agamemnon, or whatever the hell the guy's name is, you know, Methuselah or something. Like, those two are in a secret public relationship. I mean, everybody in the building knows, you know, but they too have to keep it a secret, not only because his position as Lust, or the embodiment of, but because of the fact that he's with an imp. You know what I mean? So this genuinely could have, like, implications elsewhere, and it will be interesting to see how that could play out.
I agree. Yeah, I am someone who I like a good long game, if I'm gonna be honest, if done right. Like a good long game done right. 3Dubs knows all about a good long game with Smallville. Like, he's very well experienced with that. But I kind of think they need this time apart a little bit. And I'm kind of excited to see what this time apart means. I think especially for Stolas, because Blitz has treated that man like utter garbage, episode after episode after episode. I kind of want that man to go find love for a couple episodes. Like, let that man be. Like, obviously he's not going to find it, I don't think. I think he's too obsessed over Blitz. But honestly, I kind of want Blitz to suffer a little bit, just for a couple episodes. I want him to feel the, like, you messed this up, man. Like, I think you kind of...
I hear that, but don't you think that might create even more baggage for Stolas? And more of a gap that they have to bridge?
I just want Stolas to be happy. And
as we know, the happiness lies with Blitz. You know what I mean? I understand that they were in, like, somewhat of an abusive relationship. Like, let's not forget also that they are in hell. So,
like you, Connor.
So their idea of love and physicality and abuse would be a shade different to what we see, right? That's not to say that they are not in an abusive relationship, because they goddamn are. That being said, there also have been rules, parameters put on them through themselves and society that they have not been able to fully express themselves. And then, like, Blitz has only just got over the whole the Scar situation, him feeling guilt for ruining other people's lives and just constantly being himself, So, like, there is growth that needed to happen for them to get to this point. But like, they're finally there. You know what I mean? And I fear that to draw it out any longer could, like, because at the moment they're kind of like that. Do you know what I mean? And if they go too far or draw it out too long, they have a good chance of missing each other again, and then we end up in a Ross and Rachel, and we don't want that.
Yeah, I think you do raise a good question, because I am curious where we leave them end of the season. Because, like, to me, that feels like maybe the end of the season.
He was on a break.
I mean, can't go on a break if you never together to break the first place, I guess. And that was Blitz's whole thing this episode, where it's like, we weren't even together. Like, I just saw the crashing of what almost was us. And I really liked just kind of going inside Blitz's mind a little bit and kind of seeing what he's going through. Like, I thought, like, the villain of this episode was very fun. Like, I thought, like, what he was able to do for the characters. I thought Millie was easily the MVP of this episode. I think she might honestly...
He often is.
I think outside of Stolas, which is easily my favorite character, Millie might be my favorite character. She is, like, almost the glue of this group, I think. She's
such a badass.
Yeah.
When she... Like, the way when she fights it, I forget where it was. I think it was the camp where everybody was loving on her husband for, like, to trick him, and then the fight scenes, man, that she pulls off with, she's so cool. She's such a badass. Luna's cool too, but she's no Millie.
Yeah, no, like, I love the moment in this episode where it's like, no, Blitz can take it. I'm gonna kick your ass. Like fuck you, man. Like, don't use our fears against us. But also, I love the, like, a villain that is kind of using their fears and their insecurities against them. A character that is in such a vulnerable place right now, and kind of like expelling that for the audience, I thought was really fun. Like, the backflash stuff I thought this week with, like, kind of bringing Millie into, their circle, and they're trying to build something. And that moment with Millie when she's like, what are you doing? We can't, people like us can't do this. Like, we're not worthy of that. And Blitz just being like, oh, shut the fuck up. Yes, you are. Like, I think this highly of you. I think this, this much about you. And there was, like, an insulting of that. It was like, so what, you think, because I think so highly of you and you don't think so, so you're insulting me. Like, are you saying my judgment is wrong because you don't think high of yourself? Like, I thought that was such a good moment. I think did so many good things for Millie, just showing how far she has come as a character from where we met her in season 1. I thought that was incredibly cool.
Stolas, like, not only having to deal, because obviously he's the Prince of Hell, I think, so not only would he have to deal with like the public side of it. I mean, he still has to deal with his ex-wife and her
I care so much.
very targeted attacks.
Yeah.
You know, like she's such a bitch. I hate to say it, but she's such a bitch.
Oh, she's terrible. Yeah. I definitely hope either, if not next episode, the following episode, or the next, whenever it is a Stolas episode, because I am very much wanting to see what he's been up to post everything. What's up with this other person that he was potentially trying to, his like rebound person or whatever. I think that's going to be important. I hear the back half is going to be insane. Like from people, what I've heard is the tease and stuff. I hear this back half is like some of the best stuff of the show so far, which makes me happy. Like, I'm glad I've kind of jumped on now. We've kind of jumped on now, where we can talk about the rest of the show. And I think, I think the future of this franchise is bright. Like, it seems like they're really killing it on this side of things. Has Been Hotel, I think is beginning of next year. So season 2 of that, I'm pretty sure is beginning of next year.
Are you messing with me?
I'm pretty sure. If not, I think I heard like in the spring potentially. That show's renewed up until season 4. Like we're like renewed way past what normal shows are like renewed till. So
that's
a lot of this universe show to come. The boys are just kind of sitting here listening to us. Is there any final thoughts on this show? Before we move on?
Just that I love the fact that it's been however many years in creation in this universe of Has Been Hotel and Helluva Bath, and the things are changing both in heaven and through like the pride level of hell, the lust level of hell, the wrath level where we are. You know what I mean? There's all of these changing mechanisms to how the entire structure works. You know what I mean? The entire dogma. So that's fascinating, and I cannot wait to see where they go.
Yeah, there's so much world, but like I know there's so much from like the Helluva Boss stuff, like especially that I know I've missed. Like there's so much world building they've done, so much years of history that like again I'm rather new. Like I'm kind of just jumping in. I'm excited to dive into all the lore, and each time I like okay I get it. And, like people will say something, I was like, what are you talking about? Like I have no idea what what piece of lore you're talking about. So I think it's great what they've done. Like obviously like the fan base has been there since day one. It's so popular. Again, the fact that it's on YouTube, I think it's such an inspiring thing that people can be like, yeah, I'm just going to make this thing and put it out there. Like you can just do that now. Like that's something people can do. Yeah. I think it's so unbelievably cool. And yeah, with that being said, we're moving on to our final show, Superman and Lois. This was season 1, episode 7.
Season 1.
Yeah, that's what I said. Let's go back. Season 4.
Yeah,
let's live it down more than the 3 episodes. Let's go back.
Yeah, let's just do it again, guys.
Yeah, let's roll back to season 1.
I would love to. They did it so well the first time.
But
I think my theories are gonna go crazy.
So let's start with you, since you've been sitting here quietly while we've talked about the other shows. You know what? Let's just say, what's your thoughts on the season? Because we had you on episode 1, or for the first couple, I think, of season 1 or season 4, the season. What's been your thoughts on this season so far?
The best one so far.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I like when they do adaptations to comic books. Death of Superman. Also like the anticipation of Brainiac. We still haven't seen Tom Cavanaugh yet, so it makes me really really think he might be Brainiac. It's he's.
I kind of hope they're lying to us, because they've said he's not Brainiac.
I hope they're lying to us too.
Like, it's not him. Who else could he be at this point?
It's definitely him. It's definitely him.
Yeah, it has to be him. I mean, he's the smartest person in the Arrowverse, and to be the smartest person in the multiverse would be Brainiac. So
it's either he is Milton, or he's some loser nobody gives a shit about. Like it's gonna be some some random. It's this guy from issue 17, and it was like it's just a random cameo. Just walks on screen for 3 seconds, whatever. Yeah.
And I think he does direct the last episode. of season 4.
Yeah.
He also what's kind of like awesome is this episode kind of like threw a wedge in some people's like I kind of liked it that they didn't do what Supergirl did. I would have hated it so much. Like it's just a rip off of Supergirl's finale. I would have hated it so much, and I'm glad that we got his secret revealed now until the finale. I would have hated it if it was the finale.
Okay, yeah.
you bring up a really good point.
Yeah, this is something we talked about last week, where like I think as Utahs are bringing up the like revealing it to the world. I made a video about it this past week. That was my big concern. Like I actually really love the Supergirl, like how Supergirl. I think that's a great. I think that comes full circle for that version of the character, like a character that has always struggled with who Kara Danvers is and who Supergirl is, and then her solution was like, oh, I'm both, and kind of putting those two together. I thought was a perfect ending for that show. But I was worried. It's like, how are you going to make that different from what that show did, the other super show on CW? And they do it very differently. And I do think the fact that it's not in the finale, it's not how the show ends, makes it better for me. I was like, okay, you know what? Like, I was holding on to a lot of, like, I don't know if I like this. And then what happened, I was like, I do like this, actually. This is very well done.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I didn't realize the actor that was the bully, well, not the bully, basically the dad of Candace, was actually a meteor freak in Smallville, episode 1. He was he was actually the guy, the first meta that Clark ever fought.
Gotcha.
And I couldn't recognize him. You know why? Because it's been 30 years.
Right. Only get 2 more 3-dubs, 2 more small references.
Anyways, but I liked how they like everyone reacted to the shot of the bullet coming out of the gun. I liked that when he turned to Lois, she didn't flinch.
Yeah.
She didn't. Her reaction was totally different than any other person in the bar.
Right.
I think even Kyle didn't flinch, which is kind of like he knows about Clark being Superman, and he knew that he wouldn't get hit.
Yeah.
So they showed how they love Superman by those shots, by him taking off his glasses, his posture, They did 4 shirt rips in the freaking episode. I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. They just like they fed the fans. They did the whole shirt rip, and then the angle of the shot of the bullet coming in and bouncing off without any damage to the suit was awesome. The spark that they described of the bullet hitting steel was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then you have the full suit and then just dropping down. I was like, that reminded me of Brandon Routh's Superman, where the guy pulls out his sidearm and shoots him in the eye and it falls down and he looks up. that was like a freaking like call back to every they like, you could tell they really love Superman.
Yeah.
I was like, I was in awe.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm not the only one who drew comparisons to that Brandon Routh Superman scene. I was like, oh, are they gonna shoot him in the eye and let it crumble?
Yeah.
I also was kind of reserved at that point too. I was like, is he even strong enough to block a bullet now? Like, we haven't seen him stop a bullet, which brings up the idea of, is he getting stronger?
I think
because
he
seemed
How do you
really
test
good.
that?
He seemed really good this episode. Like, there was nothing like, oh, my heart is giving me an issue. Like, there was no, vision issue. There was no hearing issue. He seemed really good this episode. Like, he made a couple of big saves early on, and he was very confident too in that scene. Like, okay, I can stop this bullet. I know what I need to do. So I wonder if that's some subtle foreshadowing that maybe his abilities are slowly kind of returning. I hope so.
one thing of the episode that I kind of like was like my mind was like, okay, how did he do this? Because I'm like trying to figure out, like, you see the shirt rip, right? You see the angle, the bullet coming off of the thing, but when it goes down to when the bullet falls to his feet, you see the red boots. I'm like, wait, when did he change into those? Like, you didn't actually see that part of the changing, which was kind of like, it threw me for a loop. Like, this is, I wish I could have seen what he does, because I know it's like they to save time and whatnot. But even though it was like awesome, it's just like the logic of it. You want to know, like, what did he do? Like, did he put like one boot on and then another boot on, and the slow motion of him pulling up his pants, kind of like the whole thing. So it was kind of like one of those moments, like, you wish there was more information, because you kind of like curious if he didn't, like, maybe he phased into his suit, like, I don't know, like maybe what Wolverine did with the cow, having like, what is it called, Darth, the infinite something pocket. Hammer space. Maybe it was hammer space, where it just like materializes as he rips his shirt open.
Yeah. I just to go back to the powers thing. Yeah, I think you're right, because like I theorized very early on that I thought it was going to be like a passing of the mantle situation, where he'd be like, okay, I am not strong enough to do this by myself, or whatever. I might step down for a while, let you guys kind of step in, and that might still happen for a minute. But I definitely don't think he's going to fully retire as Superman now, especially after that reveal. It'd be very strange that he's like, okay, everybody, I am Superman. Then to be like,
I'm out.
Just kidding. I'm actually retiring. Actually, these are my sons.
Yeah.
Meet my sons. Meet Superboy. Meet Superboy 1 and Superboy 2.
Yeah.
All right, they've gotcha. Bye bye.
My theory is that we might get a convergence. I think it's either open ended or convergence like story, to where they said that they would honor the Arrowverse, and the only way I can think that they could honor the Arrowverse is if this Superman somehow is living in secret on Earth Prime, as the convergent stories have said.
I'll be honest. I think in terms of their like honoring the Arrowverse, I think that honestly might just be Tom Cavanaugh. Like, I think that might just be like a slight. I don't think they're actually going to bring anybody in from Earth Prime. I think it's mainly just going to be like, a little reference to something, or a little like a line that's like, you failed something, or something like very small. Just be like honoring where we came from, but embracing the future.
The thing is, they don't need to bring anyone in. For even Tom Cavanaugh doesn't need to necessarily be there to be like, hey, we brought someone from the Arrowverse in that isn't really part of the Arrowverse because he's on your Earth. What I'm saying is, basically, they can have a montage of clips of Earth Prime heroes, like they did in Titans, where you see the Flash running across Beast Boy. You see like a old clip of him in the gold boots, a recycled clip. You don't need to have the actor there to be, be there.
I do, and I go back and forth in terms of like if I want them to do something or if I don't. I do think at this point, like, listen, I'll be the first one to complain they exited from Earth Prime. That was a very tough time for us as the fan base, but like, they committed to that. They were like, this is what we want to do. We're bringing in our own Lex. We're bringing in our own Jimmy Olsen, which we'll talk about in a second. Yeah. We're doing all these things. And it's like, I'd rather them just commit at this point. It's on its own thing. We're separate from the rest of the universe. And I think just kind of fully committing to that at this point is probably their best option. Like, to me, the Arrowverse ended when Barry had his final shot running into the camera, and I think that's a beautiful way to end it all. I really do. I think that's such a brilliant way.
That would be called the open-ended. And it's a perfect open ending. I think that's a great. And again, like, in another world, I would have loved if Superman Lois was still part of this universe. There was definitely things they could have done differently. Like, there's so many different potential
we almost had Wonder Girl, but I would have loved more Batwoman. We almost had Justice Hugh. Like, there's all these things I would have loved for them to do, but I think at this point, I really do just want them to end this show as well as they possibly can with what they've been doing. And if there is something, then there is something. Not much we can do about it at this point.
Yeah, because
What
it's
about
like
how-
end of
yeah.
the show, so it's kind of like they don't need to stay separate. Like, even though, like, because it's done, they can do whatever the freak they want. Like, it's WB can't say shit, CW can't say shit. It's already done and said. I mean, they could like basically just like have them on Earth Prime and retired in a way of having a normal life family again, and like be not like involving themselves in the heroes like the Convergence stories have done. Like, basically Superman's in secret. There's another Superman on that Earth, but he doesn't like talk to him. He doesn't communicate with him. He doesn't save people because there's a Superman already saving people. He doesn't need to do that. He's basically retired.
Okay, but
Why?
so
Ow.
like,
read the Convergence storyline. You'll understand.
I don't need to. Like, this Superman is doing just fine here. Like, there's nothing in this storyline that says he's gonna just dip off to another universe.
The Convergence storyline is basically, it should have happened before Crisis. That's technically how the Convergence storyline happens. It happens before Crisis. Jonathan is born. Jonathan Kent, Superman's son, was born during the Convergence, and it leads into Crisis. And basically, Brainiac helps them go into secret on another Earth, living their lives peacefully. That's basically how it happens.
I just don't know if that's like a very satisfying ending for these characters. Like, I feel like right now where we're at, they're almost like, I don't know if they would have been happier. Like, once they take down Lex Luthor, I almost feel like they're going to have this perfect life that they've been wanting. Like, Clark, and we'll talk about the secret thing in a minute, but like, this is kind of the life Clark's been wanting for a while, where he doesn't have to stress about keeping his family secret. Like, this is something that's been weighing on Clark for a very long time, and he's happy. It seems like they're.
I think that Lex is going to fuck that up.
He's going to try for sure. Yeah.
I think he's going to make it so that this Superman can't live peacefully on this Earth.
See, I don't think there's that much he can do, because the damage is already done by the identity reveal. I mean, so unless he literally like puts a bounty on his head, which there's already going to be like a level of people, like you said, that are going to be seeking revenge anyway.
Right. Yeah.
So like the bounty only adds on like a few extra people, in my opinion.
And yeah, like what I really love about this, and we're going to talk about the Lex Luthor in a minute, because I do want to give you your flowers in a minute, Darth. But like, I do love how they embraced his attack full on. He's like, I'm gonna reveal his identity and ruin his whole life. And it's like, no, actually, it's time. It's time I do this. And it's like turning his attack into his own thing. Like he embraced it for himself. I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
And speaking on that, like, can I say, who wants to go first?
No, I loved the way that they did it and the way that we got to this reveal, because again, leading up to it, we compared it to the way Supergirl ended. It could have very much so been kind of not necessarily a last minute thing, but something that just happens at the end of the series. It's like, okay, so many people know now, let's just reveal the identity and leave it all out in the open. But no, this was actually very strategic. Clark was in a very public place, and he had to make a very public save. So these people in Smallville knew who he was. And then you just have that extra added layer of, Lex was the one who sent Candace's dad after him and caused this whole scene to actually happen. So in order to stop this from happening in the future, Clark is like, okay, this big secret that I've been keeping my entire life, this thing that I've been hammering home to my family, to my kids, this whole episode has been keep the secret at all costs. This is the most important thing. This is the only way we're going to be able to live a normal life. But everybody around him is like, you know what? Maybe we aren't living such a great normal life just having to lie to everybody this whole time. John and Jordan have a great scene where they talk about, you know, how do they live a normal life if they have to keep the secret and the only people they can really talk to are each other. The flashbacks bring up a great point where Clark was very isolated and Lois had to be that voice of reason and was like, hey, no, like reach out, be Jimmy's friend, go join this baseball team, do this thing with him. You know, you can still hide your powers, you can still keep that secret, but don't let that secret control your life. And I think that Clark finally learned that by the end of this episode. And he was like, you know what? I've been holding on to this for so long. It's been such a burden. It's been just such a heavy thing weighing on me. I'm not going to allow anybody to hold that power over me anymore. So I'm just going to go ahead and reveal it.
So
I think that was perfect.
I think that Clark thinks that he like had one over on Lex because Lex probably thought that he wouldn't reveal his secret, and I think I think also Lex wants him to reveal his secret. Like if he had a plan A and plan B for two different scenarios, one where Clark doesn't reveal his secret, and two for when he does. I think plan A happened where his secret was revealed to the entire world. I think Lex wanted him to reveal his secret. And I think that from the trailer, I think it's part of his big plan that he's going to try to discriminate and basically like make Lois a liar on basically everything, making her like her whole integrity of how she became a reporter into question. Her whole like she's going to be like they're debating in the next episode.
3 Dubs wants her Pulitzer taken.
Huh?
3 Dubs wants her Pulitzer taken.
Basically, Lex is going to take away the Pulitzers. Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Which I really like. I actually really like his. I mean, honestly, fair enough, to be honest. Like, she did have an inside help that a lot of other reporters did not have. She was friends with Superman, right? So it's questionable, like, you know, and that's always kind of been the thing. Where it's like, oh, but I've had help. You know, I've had this inside person kind of helping me along the way.
Didn't they make a reference to that at some point throughout one of the seasons? Yeah. Like, Lois said something like, oh, we always play fast and loose with the journalistic integrity or something like that.
Yeah.
And sorry, go ahead.
Go.
No, I was just gonna say, like, we've kind of touched on the idea of the like morality of Lois Lane throughout the season, where it's like she's done a couple of things that, you know, probably weren't in the world's best interest. Like, yeah, she did put someone in jail for something that they technically didn't do. Were there things she did deserve to be put in jail for? Yeah, absolutely. But also, like, there should probably be a conversation to be had to be like, okay, how do we make sure this doesn't happen again to someone else, right? Like, like that is a very serious thing. What if he was innocent? That's a very messed up thing to do, right? So I'm actually very excited to see where next episode leads. Like, I think it's going to be very heavy on the Superman and Lois, and I'm very excited about that because this season especially, I think, has really shown why it's called Superman and Lois, which I love. Like, and I think the show always has, but like I remember back when the show was announced, they're like, "Oh, it's called Superman and Lois. Oh, it's just going to be all this love drama." This show is proved why it's called Superman and Lois, because it's not just a Superman show. It is Superman and also Lois Lane. It is both their shows simultaneously, and the fact they've been able to keep that up for 4 seasons now is incredible, I think.
Speaking of that, I know we keep talking about the original plan for the show, right? Would they have revealed his identity in the original season 4 and then gone with it
not.
Through season 7? Yeah, I think this has always been a final season thing.
If it did happen, I think if they stuck with Earth Prime, that eventually when season 6 and Superman and Lois's season, like time-wise, went the same direction, it would have been they will know. As Supergirl reveals Supergirl, they in Supergirl's universe, they know that Clark Kent, Superman is her cousin.
Right.
So for it, when she reveals her identity, she just threw her cousin under the bus too. So
I think that could have been a fun plot line though, to them having consequences of that on their show if it was still connected, to be like, okay, that's really cool, Kara did that, but we also have to prove to the world I am not Superman, I'm not Superman, and that I think would have been a whole thing, which could have been fun.
Yeah.
Like I always like
their excuses would have been getting real thin by the point. Like if they got to like season 6 and 7 and had the boys involved of like had to keep explaining about where they were disappearing, it would have gotten silly.
Then again, also John probably wouldn't have powers this season if they were going to season 7. The Death of Superman arc would have been completely different. I don't think they would have done the whole kind of public Superman death either if they were going to continue. And I love also the fact that they revealed the identity in episode 7 versus doing it in the finale, because now we get 3 episodes of the fallout of that. So it's not just kind of a stinger of like, oh, and then the universe continues. We don't get to see that. But no, we get to live in that.
And Jimmy wouldn't he would have already known about Clark's identity and would have had that basically pal relationship with Jimmy, as we've seen in Supergirl, where they basically they hinted at that they're buddies, and basically Clark asked him as a request to watch over Supergirl, his cousin. So it was basically that dynamic would have been totally different. Obviously would have McCord Brooks back, which would have been cool, seeing a 7-foot person hover over Superman. Like I'm basically being sarcastic about it, but every Jimmy Olsen apparently is like taller than Superman right now. But yeah, I actually love this iteration of Jimmy Olsen. And also the fact that in every single modern day telling of Superman, he's found out that Clark Kent is Superman by a freaking photograph.
I really loved how they went about it, because that was my biggest question when we heard Jimmy Olsen was coming in this season. I was like, okay, that's exciting. We've been waiting for that since season 1, where like he is probably the biggest Superman character up until this point that we had no idea where they were, right? Like they typically have a very close relationship. That's the best friend of Superman. Where are they? And I love how they straight up was like, we haven't seen them because they're not friends. Like they are not friends in this continuity yet. And I think that's the perfect way of doing it, because they now establish, I feel like that's happening now. Obviously a lot of that's going to be like off screen. We're not going to really, because I think this is his only episode this season, unfortunately. I'm pretty sure this was it. But like
unless
we end
back over the finale for some reason.
I kind of wish he would.
Everybody's in the finale apparently.
Everybody, yeah. But like
everyone gets the super suit.
You get a super suit. You get a super suit. You get a super suit.
Yeah, but that like
that gets a super suit.
That final scene of the episode was like,
I love that.
They're becoming friends. Like that is the future. Like their dynamic going forward is that they will now become friends, which I think is really, really cool.
I have to say,
they made Jimmy Olsen's sister. They changed her name from Kelly to Janet, which is still a original character. Kelly Olsen, I don't think, was in the comics either.
No, she's not.
Janet Olsen wasn't in the comics either. They made the two original siblings from they made them up. And this is my second time, so I'm counting. Second time, right, Gary? Second time. In Smallville's continuity, it was a twin brother.
Gotcha.
And that twin brother wasn't a comic book character. So they kept with the whole original character sibling, which I thought was awesome. And the fact that in those moments where he showed those pictures that they called back to Christopher Reeve's Superman, where you had the helicopter, the railroad thing, and then the Eiffel Tower elevator scene, I was like, oh, they really love him.
Yeah.
They gave so many nods to like future to past Clark Kent, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah, even the telephone booth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I just want to quickly talk about like how amazing this episode was, like as a whole. But like just because of the fact that they kept showing us the consequences, and as Taz was saying, the isolation of Clark Kent.
Yeah.
And how costly that was for him. And honestly, the episode for me was going like 50-50 until the diner scene, because I kind of felt like, oh, it could just be that they're showing us what he's trying to say to the boys this whole time, but he can't articulate very well. You know what I mean? Because he spent so long shutting it off and not expressing it, he doesn't know how to, And I was like, oh, this could be like where the boys are like, okay, cool, I'll suck it up. I see what's going on, and they were ready to do that. And then this big thing happened, and they used the singular moment really that anybody ever talks about with the show, the scene in the diner. Everybody's favorite scene was used against us. And then when we fired that gun, just the defeat that we saw in Tyler Heckman's face. And this is again one of the reasons that he is the best Clark Kent and Superman. Like we've had the highest highs and the lowest lows with this man, and we're just seeing him take an absolute gut punch in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And I do, in answer to Taz's and your point earlier, I do think that maybe the suit is somewhat armored, it being Kryptonian and all, to be able to take some of the bullet damage. As to why he might be bulletproof, because I think just walking out, like in the condition he's in, into gunfire, as triumphant and heroic as that may be, is incredibly stupid.
Yeah.
Especially as a father who's just come back from the dead.
And I guess it makes sense less so for dramatic effect. Like, yes, the shirt rip is cool. Yes, revealing the suit is cool. But I like your point is maybe he actually had to be in the suit to protect himself.
Yeah.
Sure.
I also liked how I thought this S was kind of like painted on his chest, but when he goes from the angle, it's popped out. I'm like, that's unique, and it emphasizes what Bitsy Tolik said on Twitter, where there's minor details in the suit that will blow your mind. Like there's like 1,000 million S's, that make the suit.
I would think so.
I think the S looks it looks a little
it does.
different.
Yeah, it's more textured. It definitely has some depth to it. The previous ones, think about it kind of like a shirt that's photo printed versus a shirt that has raised lettering or something.
Yeah.
Like
I think maybe Cavill's had a bit of depth to it, but not
not as much.
And I definitely think that Brandon Routh's Kingdom Come suit definitely had depth to it, because you could tell that it was not a part of the suit. It was like the emblem, and then the blue was underneath it. So I think his S popped out. You could tell it popped out.
Also, again, 3Dubs' point earlier of Lois not flinching, like the way she looked at him, because she knew that he would look at her in that moment, and just a face that just said, it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, they just spoke to him in silence with a mask on. Oh my God. And then, like, so basically another thing is that I was saying to my friend here that he held on to that moment in super speed for as long as superhumanly possible, because he could have just like reflexed the muscle and relaxed and gone back and dealt with the situation, but he lived with the reality of no one knows who I am, no one knows who I am, no one knows who I am, for as long as possible before his whole life changed. And then boom, the fact that he looked so big and little at the same time stood in that cafe in front of everybody.
Yeah.
That's a good
just the symbolism too of just putting down the glasses and being like,
that's a brilliant
it's
shot.
time to hang up the mask.
Yeah,
the mask wasn't Superman, it was Clark Kent.
Yeah.
Like he put down Clark Kent.
Yeah, and I think like I do think people are kind of misunderstanding the scene a little bit. Like I've been seeing comments on TikTok. I was like, he could have just done this and got rid of it. I don't think that's what that was. There's totally, he probably could have been like, I'm gonna put this in my pocket. I don't know, it must have been out of bullets. Or like he could have done that if he wanted to. There's ways he could have done it.
I mean, he could have even pretended like it hit him and just been like,
yeah, he would, oh my gosh, give me hit.
Yeah, with Coach K. Ow.
If he was an ice pack.
If he was weaker as you guys thought he is, he could have taken that bullet and like he could have died, like basically died if you thought he was weaker than that.
But like
if he was strong, if he was literally Superman, the bullet wouldn't have worked. Yeah, it wouldn't have pierced his body.
But like it was a moment of acceptance. Like that's what that was. He was going in slow motion. He was like, how am I going to handle this? Like there's two ways I can do this. I could, hold it even longer. And I think that was the moment when he looked at him or looked at Lois and was like, okay, it's time. It is time that we let this go. And
I was kind of I was like really against what Clark said. I get what Clark was coming from with what he said to the boys, but I thought the boys had a perfectly good like comeback to it. Like they basically were like, my whole relationship fell apart and I didn't want the same thing to happen to Jonathan over here. And Jonathan was like, "Oh, thanks, like brotherly love." And he goes, "You should have broken up with her."
Okay, that's the thing, though. Okay, so this was a whole debate we had about 2 weeks ago because I was Clark. Like 2 weeks ago, I was like, "That's one of the dumbest things the show has ever done." I was like Jordan telling Candace, I was like, "That's so stupid on so many levels." That's also the point now that I realize.
Yeah.
Like I was seeing it through Clark's eyes, where it's like, you freaking idiots! Why would you do this? This goes against everything we've been building towards. That was the point. So I do have to give the show their flowers a little bit. On rewatch, I might be like, okay, yes, I mean,
I will still critique it for being off screen, though.
I 100% do. Yeah, I agree.
It would have been even more impactful if we would have seen
that's
that.
Another thing, though. It's like the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse joke. Like, let's do this one more time. We've seen it. We've seen people get told throughout the show. We don't need to see another face and then going, okay, calm down. Yes, it's insane. But we've had that. We're on a limited time schedule. Okay, we've got enough shit to get through. Okay.
They had like enough time for Wynn to freak out, to blow in his bag, going, there was a crisis, there was this, there was that, what? And then we're back to normal. I mean, like 5 minutes later. They had enough. They could have like shortened some of the dramatic like one shots where like you see Clark like looking over at the horizon and like pausing for a second. You could have cut that shorter. You could have cut that shorter and given it to like revealing identities. So like they could have like they could have found ways to cut some of the.
I'm so glad they're done with The Secret as well, because even normal people that like aren't a part of the family suffer for it. I mean, like with Timmy or whatever his name is, who they still have to now go and apologize to tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? Like, but he's not wrong though. Do you know what I mean? He is wrong and he's not wrong. Yeah. I mean, because like that's the whole thing they are gonna now have to deal with. Is there are some things they just can't do now. You know what I mean? They're not going to be able to join the Olympics.
Timmy, are you on drugs?
That was
Yeah.
great.
Oh.
Yeah,
I know.
Are you taking space drugs
Oh.
again?
Oh, it was so bad. It was so bad. I mean, so, like, talk about tarring somebody with a brush, because, like, even his mum, like was like like they're gaslighting him, and then she's sitting there fanning it, you know.
Right.
And it's just so frustrating on his behalf. I mean, like, that's how serial killers are made. Things like that,
Yeah.
you know. But you gotta be real careful.
And the real funniness is actually when Clark was saying in the interview, and you saw the kid, just like I was right. I'm like,
Yeah.
you weren't fucking right. Jonathan didn't have powers until now.
Yeah.
You just suck.
Oh, I hate it too. And he drove me crazy this episode. Like, he was bullying the boys, and then was like, "Oh no, like they've been so mean to me." Like, some of it was justified, like, for sure. Like, how they were gaslighting him. Yeah, that kind of sucks. But also, Denise is the goat. Denise is the goddamn goat. Okay, because at the end, where she's just like, "Oh, hi, Mr. Kent," you know what I mean, and then just treating him exactly the same.
Yeah.
You know what? I said this before, like in on the Party Nation, where I was like, I like that scene because he didn't want things to change with it, because he thinks that the town thinks of him as Clark and not Superman.
Yeah.
Everyone in the bar, besides her, looked at Clark Kent and went like in starstruck, and she knew that he wanted to think she knew that he wanted to be Clark Kent in Smallville. Like, he didn't. She knew that he didn't want to be known as Superman. So she said, "Hey, Clark," and then went on his way, giving him the satisfaction that people see him as Clark, not Superman.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell the world? I'm just a regular guy.
Yeah, it had the
roll credits.
Perfect title for this episode. But yeah, like his whole thing, like he was telling the world he was Superman for the first time. There's so many things he could have said, so many messages, but he wanted to just be like, "Yeah, I'm just like you. I'm just a regular guy." And I think,
and told everyone he died.
Yeah,
and also literally said, like, when the boys were young, I wasn't there.
Yeah,
I put my needs below the rest of the world.
Yeah, there is now going to be a giant target on his back, I assume. And you know what? To be fair, it's a very different DC universe than we're used to. Like, if this was a regular DC universe, they would be fucked, right? They would have every Tom, Dick, and Harry that Justice League has fought, time and time again, right? So this is a very different universe that they're in, much more street level stuff. So, Zod is going to show up on their door probably tomorrow or whatever. But, this still puts a target on their family's back. This puts a target on the Lang's family's back. This puts a target on the Irons family's back. This puts a target on a lot of people's back.
I think it kind of puts a target on the entire city of Smallville.
Whole city of Smallville. Absolutely. Yeah.
And Metropolis.
Yeah.
I did think, like, Smallville is now going to get, like, very culty. You know what I mean?
Well, there's
going to be like an expectation of safety that it could just turn into the Stepford Wives area.
Well, remember in Supergirl, they basically had this cult of alien worshippers or whatever in season 4, I believe, I hope they don't go that route. It's the one part of the aspect of season 4 I hate it.
I hope that what we get is something small, like we get to see the Smallville sign. And then what did it say? It was like meteor capital of the U.S. So I hope it just
home of Superman.
Home of Superman. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I want to see.
And the Smallville is his F.
Yes.
Yeah.
I guarantee they already do that. They already did that to the water tower, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I also love that little line of just like, I'm sorry I had to lie to you guys for all these years. Like Clark
has the first thing you said.
Like, that was, I love just, and this season's been doing a lot, I talked about a lot last week, just like the dynamic of Superman and his town, I think is so good. Mm-hmm. And that's what I wanted out of the season, but it's not been in the episodes I thought. Like, I thought they were going to do it within the Death of Superman arc of showing what Superman means to his people, like what he has done for them, and once he died, being like, because that's what's so good about the Death of Superman arc is we get to see what Superman means to the world, what he means for the people he saved, and they didn't do it during Death of Superman, but they did it after, which is kind of an interesting twist on it.
Speaking of like favorite lines, one of the lines that always like makes me think of like Superman is when the general was trying to get him to basically bow to America, and he goes, "I gave my allegiance to the world a long time ago."
Yeah.
So he's not a one specific city hero. He's a hero to the entire world, and he doesn't care about your freaking politics. Right. If there's a person in danger, he's going to freaking save him.
Yeah.
Same as the boys.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and I think that will work much better now that there is 3 of them, where it's like, ideally in different, like, because like, let's be real, wherever Superman lives is going to be the one with the best dream. That's just how it goes. It's just plain and simple. That's where he's going to be the most. He's going to help everybody, but he can't be everywhere. And since he's already in Smallville, they're going to get the part, because that was the whole season 1 thing, right? Whereas like Superman was around a lot in season 1, and then he left, right? And that was like, oh, Superman left us or whatever. And then it's like, but he came back and trying to regain that trust from the people. But hopefully when there's 3 of them, like, hypothetically, they should all live in different places. So it's like, all right, this one's this place, this, all across the world or whatever.
Another one was how he teaches the boys of like, he gets angry. He's not immune to anger. Yeah. Like you saw that when he like basically like got shot with green kryptonite and got so mad that he like sped up to the Marine and was like, stand down, and basically like put his foot down. Like he was holding so much anger back, and you could tell it. Like he has so much like restraint. Like it's like it took me years to master this, because everyone gets angry just because I think what Lex did in the last episode kind of like, there's so much you can take before you bust a cap. So he lost it when you attack his family and friends, and that's what happens when. But luckily, you have this red thing to stop him from like basically smashing his head in. Because if that wasn't stopping him, Homelander. We would have a Homelander.
Darth, were you saying something?
Just something kind of stupid, but given the fact that anybody with Kryptonian DNA is going to age slower, like eventually, because of the Kryptonian DNA being incredibly stronger than the human DNA, like eventually we're going to be getting to a point where they created such a dynasty, it's going to be like the X-Men versus humans. Like, we're talking like way, way, way down the line. And if one of them was a prolific lover, right? But like down the line, there's a point where, because not all of them are just going to be like Boy Scouts, But yeah, there's a good point where the Earth could be New Krypton. That's interesting.
The other thing, though, to think about on that, too, is you are now making a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. So
each Kryptonian should get weaker and weaker, I would imagine, all right?
Yeah.
They
so
kind
think
of
about
did this with Dragon Ball, if you think about it, because they basically you were a full Saiyan, and then you had kids and they're half Saiyans, and then they have kids and they're quarter Saiyans, and basically they still have the they still have the Saiyan part.
Yeah.
And it ignites in them, and they become Super Saiyans. So
yeah.
I still really want to make a movie. Like if I was ever to make like a superhero movie, I'd really love to do like an old man Superman kind of story where it's like everyone he loved has kind of died, and it's like kind of the opposite of what Logan is, where like Logan is obviously a story about like someone who has not handled his loss well. But I feel like a story where maybe a very depressed Superman, a very like, you know, he's Lois is dead and Jimmy is dead and all these people around him. Is that because he lives forever? Like a story about
Well,
like
then that's Brandon
The
Routh
clo-
Kingdom Come
yeah,
Superman
the, yeah, I
from
was just about to
Crisis.
say that. Like,
Yeah.
the closest you're going to get to an old man Superman and
Yeah.
the loss of everyone is Kingdom Come, because he lost everyone.
I guess I guess the difference in my mind is they're not killed. They just die because he outlives people, right? Like
Right.
very similar to like a Omni-Man situation where it's like everyone you know will be dead. Then
Yeah.
what will you have? It's like I'll have you die.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that kind of thing would be such a fascinating story to tell.
I
Just, like,
guess you can also kind of like this isn't my third one because it's about Crisis. I guess you can also say Tom Welling's version will die as an old person because he
and that's
doesn't have
why
power.
that's why I kind of love the idea of Superman's thing, like him being less powerful now, almost as a gift. Like that line last week, where it's like, "What do you think of it? Now we get to grow it together." That like potentially what Lex Luthor gave him, if that is still true, is a gift because now he doesn't have to see his wife die. He doesn't have to live on this earth. Potentially, probably would have to see his kids die. I'd imagine, depending on how they're aging things. Like we don't know how that works exactly, if they also live forever or whatever. But like he's gonna have to watch everyone he loves die, and I feel like this way that could be a very nice ending where they kind of get to go at their own pace, like together in a cool way.
The thing I like about like Superman is they've touched base on this. Like after everyone basically dies, there is only one person that can match Superman age wise, and that's Wonder Woman.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
God.
eventually that happens.
Oh.
So it's a thing. Basically, they had think about this: 200 years of chemistry.
Yeah,
for them to it feels natural after 200 years because basically they're the same age.
I still don't love Superman and Wonder Woman, but
actually Wonder Woman's older. No offense, but Wonder Woman is actually technically older.
Yeah. I do want to touch on the Chrissy and Kyle stuff. Listen, I get flack sometimes. I like Kyle as a character. Chrissy can be very up and down for me. I love Kyle. I'm always a fan of it, and I think this has been one of my favorite seasons for Kyle. Just in these 2 episodes that we've seen, I think both were really good for him. I was kind of yelling at my screen a little bit because I do think she was very heart set on this one house that was way outside of their price range. And I was like, "Dog, pick just a different house." Like there has to
start
be...
with a bigger apartment and then then get to a house eventually.
Right? She's like, "I'm gonna sell my job." I was like, "Just find a different place. There's more than one house."
This is her first pregnancy, okay? Right? Like this is a family that she is expecting to create after breaking up a family.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, of course she's gonna be putting all her eggs in this basket. And once you see your house, you know your house. I mean, it's one of those things.
Yeah.
So
it's a woman.
Like, I fully know how she feels. You would
have to be women to fully understand the mindset, and that's probably never going to happen.
Yeah, and God bless her. She's been in that like dingy apartment with him long enough.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I just think it's kind of like a very irresponsible, like, I don't say state of mind, but to be like, I'm going to spend all of this money on this house when like there's going to be a lot of other things to come their way in terms of when you're having your first child and stuff like that, when both parties aren't super financially successful. Obviously it worked out in their favor, but like
you wouldn't want to just be house poor. Like
you don't want to sell the thing that makes you like your grill. Like Kyle's superpower is his cooking, which was awesome.
And Chrissy's selling her half of the Gazette, and Kyle's selling his grill. Oh my! No, that's where I draw the line.
Kyle's superpower is his grill, and Chrissy's superpower is her journalism.
Yeah.
But
I thought that was.
Yeah, something that we talked about early on in the season was having these smaller side storylines that I didn't enjoy a ton when they happened. I had my criticisms of the first Kyle and Chrissy episode, but I had it with that caveat that I was like, maybe by the end I'll understand why this was placed where it was. And I think we got to that point this week. when I saw them pop back up, I was like, I thought we were kind of done with them until the finale, but okay. And I think I was in a very similar boat as Darth when you were saying that this episode really picked up when we got that diner scene, and then everything kind of made sense at that point. And I really agree with that. Is I think that the whole point of the wedding originally, and the whole point of the financial struggle and all that, was to have that sit down with Kyle and Chrissy and Clark and Lois and be like, hey. We have grown as friends over the last 4 years, and we are going to solidify this friendship. Clark and Lois buy Chrissy's half of the Gazette so that Lois and Chrissy can still work together and still do their journalism to its fullest extent. And now Kyle and Chrissy can move into their super perfect, amazing house, and they have that great toast and everything. And I was like, okay, this has kind of come full circle, and it's actually kind of a sweet ending, and I liked it a lot.
I thought it was funny that the Kyle and Chrissy first episode, the whole purpose of that title, the whole like a wonderful wedding, whatever, that whole essence of that episode was completely pointless. They didn't get married, but this episode, the whole like looking at the house, the whole like we found our house, the whole like selling things to get the money to buy the house, and then the final scene of them actually getting the house, getting to where they can pay for the house, that had a point. The wedding was pointless, but
I definitely disagree. I don't think the wedding is pointless. I think the wedding was to show that you don't have to rush things, that it's okay to take your time and go at your own pace. And like I think the title
was misleading. That's what I'm trying to say. Like,
sure,
it wasn't a wonderful wedding. It was a pointless.
I think
wedding
it was kind of. I think it was just supposed to be kind of tongue in cheek. It was kind of clickbait.
It was like, very
perfectly good wedding. What could possibly go wrong? And I think that was
okay. To be fair, it was a perfectly good wedding. Like the wedding itself was perfect. Like they all got to enjoy themselves at the end. Just no one got married. Like you can have a wedding without someone getting married, technically, right? Like the wedding itself is like the celebration of said event. The marriage is when they do the vows, I think.
Well, if anything, they just have a party.
Yeah. It was at a wedding, technically.
It was just a party.
Is it at a wedding if the wedding doesn't happen?
No.
It's like the tree in the woods thing again.
Really.
I'm desperate to spend time, as we discussed, with Lois and the ramifications of like taking Superman's side. Do you know what I mean? Because while she's in Jordan's position of she didn't know the whole time, and she was reporting on him in the dark, only to have it revealed later on, there were lines crossed. You know what I mean? And then at a certain point, like, does her column just become a gossip column? At what point has she lost all of her journalistic integrity, and is that the real goal of Lex Luthor this season?
Maybe is if he cannot get her to willingly give up her power, then he has to take it away from her.
Yeah, because this Superman's identity isn't the end goal for me. You know what I mean? Because what does he gain from that if not to just tell everybody, hey, when you go around and see him, use kryptonite, everybody, which I have, so come and see me first, So it's like
you have to think of it as the it has to do with Lois, basically.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Like he wanted him to reveal the secret to the world so that there is a way for him to sway the people to believing that this entire time, it doesn't have to be like realistically, there was a time that Clark didn't tell Lois his secret. It doesn't matter in the eyes of the people.
Yeah.
From what they think, she always knew. So he's going to use the public perception to make Superman villain number one.
Public enemy number one.
Yeah, that.
There was a moment in the episode. I wasn't sure how it would have been done. But I was like, she's selling the Gazette. Is Lex going to try and buy the Gazette or something? She's going to be like,
I thought of that
again, apparently, right? Again, since he was a shell company that tried buying it the first time.
Yeah. I thought there was going to be a thing at first where it's like, oh, I am taking what you care most about. You're the place where you write your stuff, and I'm going to block all your good articles and stuff like that. But
good idea. I mean, I think he's taking the integrity though.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you actually bring up a good point. Like they do have a very biased writing staff, right? Like they're just gonna write whatever they want. I do feel like the end goal should be like, hey, let's hire some more people here. Like let's make this like a legitimate. I know it's a small little town or whatever, but like make it like a proper thing. Like I own this now. I'd like to see maybe in the final episode, in montage, like her growing it out, making it her own thing. She's one of the greatest reporters in the world. Let her show why she is so good, because I could see there being a point where it's like, well, you're only good because you know Superman. Like, that's the reason why you blah, blah, blah. Or it's like, I would be cool if we get to see her being like, no, I am good on my own merit, not because I'm married to the strongest man on earth or whatever, because I can get all these scoops. So
I think also to Lois's credit is, I don't think all of her articles are centered around Superman. I think, yes, they are helped by stories that Superman uncovers from his escapades and everything like that. But I think at the end of the day, Lois's writing will most likely sometimes overlap with things that Superman does. But I think a lot of it, too, that we've even seen on the show is that Lois will investigate something and then Superman will get involved once it becomes a larger threat. So
I just meant that's the story Lex is going to spend next episode.
Oh yeah, 100%.
He's going to be like, no, everything you've done is because of him. Your whole career has been a sham,
Yeah.
So
I think also one small little plot hole to bring up: where did Clark and Lois get all this money?
It was Sam, right?
From Sam.
Oh yeah, from Sam. You're right.
Yeah, so it wasn't plot hole.
No, you're right.
Although before this, like we talked about this
before,
neither of them are getting paid well. For one, Clark is unemployed. Before his death, obviously he was unemployed. He wasn't really working. We don't ever see him doing stuff on the farm. Lois cannot be getting paid that much. Or I guess now she might be because now she owns it. But she couldn't have been getting paid that much from a journalist, like a small town journalism firm. But
Sam was a 4-star general in the head of a whole division.
Oh,
who
now
was a workaholic.
Yeah,
who was a workaholic that just didn't spend nothing. Do you know what I mean?
Also, there's a side to owning a farm that people don't realize.
No, that's true.
They do not just sit around and fight crime.
Stuff. Yeah,
they're selling stuff.
Absolutely. You never see them
where are their animals? Where are the chickens? Where
they have chores. They have chores. You don't see those aspects. They have plants. They have corn.
Where's the corn? Where's the corn maze? Come on.
Someone brought up. I was watching the Blind Wave reaction last week, and they're trying to go get Jordan to go get a job at the diner. I was like, just work on the farm. Just make that your job. Pay Jordan to go, do the crops and without powers. Obviously, that's cheating. Don't do that. But actually work on the farm, because that should be a full-time job. That should be what Clark's doing all day. That's so hard.
There's been little scenes where Clark is like, "Hey, let's go. I'm going to teach you how to fix a tractor."
Yeah.
There's been scenes like that.
You know what they have to deal with now as well is, a little bit like Iron Man had to deal with in Avengers: Age of Ultron, I think it was, Civil War, right? Where you have people asking him hey, why didn't my auntie get saved? Or where were you when I needed help? Why are you not constantly on patrol? Why, how can he? Why, is it going to be a point where he's just rocking around like Homelander, just in full suit the whole time? Because he any time that he's not dealing with something and he's just trying to live his normal life, it's just wasted.
we already got that in Bizarre's world. Like we saw what would happen if he's in this suit 24/7.
No, I know, but like what I'm saying to him is the public is going to be challenging him
Yeah, but I think it's going to turn out differently the way he's
because
going.
a savior complex only works when you keep him vaulted in a higher position in your esteem, right? But when you start putting things on him like that aren't his fault or anything to do with him, then it starts shattering that illusion. And he's already trying to show that he's human. He's just like everybody else. He just can do things a bit more.
And he basically like answered the people's like questions about like why was I saved but not my brother, or why was my sibling saved and not a baby, like stuff like that. He's basically said that he's doing the best thing he can. He can't be everywhere at once because he's not like he doesn't have duplicate powers or whatever. He can't be everywhere at once. He can only give hope to the people that like are in like it's natural like hurricanes. He can't stop a hurricane. It's impossible.
And that's something our characters have already kind of been dealing with this season. Like Jonathan now just getting powers, and the situation with Lana and Sarah last week where like we have the powers to stop this and we weren't there for you. You needed us and we weren't there. And it's Sarah being like, no, it's fine. Like you can't be everywhere for me, but they still blaming themselves. So I could see that being a nice parallel for them next week.
Well, that idea just went out my brain. Apparently he can stop a hurricane. I mean tornado even. Because if as the Flash, I was thinking about the Flash, like he goes in the opposite direction and unravels it in a sense.
But he can't stop every hurricane. He can't stop every hurricane. Like
he can't stop an earthquake. Well, he can't. Fuck that.
I mean, he can separate Earth, so he can do pretty much anything.
Yeah.
What he can, I mean, he can't stop a volcano, but he can because he can super cool it down. Oh my gosh. Tidal wave? Well, he vision.
He can stop it. He can probably freeze it.
He vision.
Listen, he can do a lot, but he's only one man.
The fact that you also said he belongs to the world and like doesn't abide by politics and just helps people in need. There are people in third world countries or impoverished situations that are kept that way because of politics. So he should now just be dropping in and just taking people out of that.
Yeah. That's a good point where it's like, well, you're technically a member of the US, like the US Constitution or whatever. Like you are a citizen of the United States. What happens when
I don't think he is, because I think they had to fabricate his social security numbers and his name and his adoption, because that's technically not real, because he's technically not even from this earth.
Yeah. So
the laws of our world doesn't apply to, let's say, a real alien.
You need some sort of something though,
So what you're saying is Superman doesn't have to pay taxes, just like Batman.
Yep.
I feel like to work at like the Daily Planet though, like you need some sort of like documentation or whatever. He's gonna go vote. He's gonna do all these things. I imagine. Like
that reminded me of a scene where Superman breaks Batman's Batwing, and he goes, "So you going to pay for that?" And he goes like, "Yeah, give or take 20 years. I mean, you're getting a salary from a reporter." And he goes, "Right, okay, I'll just pay for it myself."
Obviously, we've been talking for a while. Is there anything that we haven't brought up that you guys want to bring up or talk about?
Yeah. Speaking of the diner scene where Chrissy like grabs Kyle and pulls him down was kind of funny, because like in the first diner scene where we see Kyle about to get up to defend Clark with the bullet, the bully that Chrissy's Candace's dad. in that same scene where he's about to get up and like defend Clark Kent, and Lana just like, no.
Yeah.
Chrissy is the scene is like the opposite of that, where Chrissy pulls him down.
Yeah.
When he's already up and already trying to defend him.
I loved Kyle's like, it was like, no, he's just a regular man. Like I like we already kind of talked about the Kyle thing, but like the relationship between Kyle and Clark is one of my favorites on the show. It's so good. Like the transition of bully turned kind of rival to acquaintance to friend to now almost best friend at this point. Like,
did I really knock up the town bully?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. Taz, Darth, do you have any kind of final thoughts?
Sorry, go.
Go ahead first.
Just that Lana, you bring up a real good point. Like, she's the mayor of Smallville, actual best friend of Clark Kent, plus Superman. Kyle, the fire chief, the second best friend of Clark Kent, the reporter, the newspaper, right? The wife and wife's best friend of Clark Kent. Like, he is in the power of all of it. Like, it is truly the land of Superman is Smallville.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be something we talk about next. Next week, that might be something that they do. Like, aren't you best friends with the mayor of the city? But like, well, technically, yeah, that'll be interesting. But I mean, I guess Superman isn't on trial; it's Lois, right? So I guess maybe that won't be up for debate. I don't know.
As well, I love the fact that like Clark, while he's doing everything he's doing, is keeping a constant listen with his one good ear on Lex Luthor. Like, no matter what he's doing, yep, he's having a dump. I know exactly where you are.
Yeah.
And I liked how Lex's presence, while he wasn't there physically, was still felt throughout the episode, and you just knew that threat was looming. And I think next week is gonna be really
for me it's going to be a little
to the finish line.
Little bit hard to watch next week, even though I like love Superman and Lois. I know what's going to happen, and I'm not entirely like happy when villains have a comeback. So I'm kind of like, I hate drama. It's a drama episode, which means it's going to like be like everything's going to go sideways, south, fast, and it's going to be like, how does Clark overcome everything being like thrown under him? Like, I think it's going to be like everything goes sideways. You have this one moment of peace, and then 180.
Yeah, I do want to mention.
But,
Go ahead.
Just that, that's kind of half of what he's expecting now, because they know that their whole life is shifting around, and one of the reasons they wanted this secret is because of the net of safety. So now that's gone. They know they're like Dick Grayson's parents. You know what I mean? They are on the edge. They are precarious in their position, and I don't think that they're going to be letting their guards down. I don't think they'll be caught off guard, is what I'm trying to say. I think next week there is something, and when it does come, they're going to be ready for it.
Okay.
Now, I don't think this is a possibility, but wouldn't it be funny if Tom Cavanaugh is actually Oliver Queen in a flashback?
That would be something for sure.
Before he dies. Because obviously he does die.
That would certainly be a choice.
Because he's already been the Flash. He's already been, these other characters.
Make him Supergirl at this point. Just say screw
it. Let's make him Supergirl.
I do want to mention prior to wrapping up, like I one thing that's kind of been on my mind these last couple for sure, and this one is like, and I have a whole thought about that. I have a whole thought process about it, where it's like, there is definitely a lack of quote unquote Superman content, right? That is a thing people have been noticing. This is the third or fourth episode in a row where he has not been in the technical suit saving people, and that's been a big conversation about it. And I think the last couple I was mentioning, it was like, man, I it definitely sucks they can't be in the suit, and I still kind of agree with that. Obviously, it's very clear it's a budget thing. Like they had him doing the Superman stuff in the first 3, kind of having a lot of the budget, and it seems like the final maybe 1 or 2 episodes will have that as well. And where I'm kind of going with that is like, even though that's sometimes noticeable and it's frustrating, the stuff is so good that I almost don't care. Like, Clark Kent is such a strong character by himself. I could watch a character about just Clark Kent and Lois Lane and their teenage sons. Like, I could just do that. It's that good.
He beat the crap out of Lex. I mean,
they are doing a fantastic job for the most part. Like, I think was it 5 that I kind of had a bit of a criticism, like the Elizabeth episode. I was like, okay, you can feel it there.
Yeah, that's 5.
Yeah.
Everything else, I think they've been doing a fantastic job getting around the budget. Where you had that street brawl, like, okay, you don't use his powers on special effects. It's a street brawl. This episode was very good because the centered idea of the episode was about Superman, so it doesn't feel like he's absent. Where the whole thing is about the future and the identity of Superman. You have him run off screen. You see him on like the tiny like TV. You use flashback. You use various different things here and there. I think they're doing a great job with it. Like, again, I could watch another couple seasons when it's just this.
The wedding the wedding in episode 5. The wedding and episode 5. I'm saying 2 different things. The wedding and the episode 5 felt the most Superman-less episodes.
Yeah,
I could feel that that was the budget, where the budget was being cut. Everything else, like episode 6 and this episode, there was it felt like it was too exciting to give a shit that he wasn't wearing a suit.
Right. Yeah. they're doing a great job with it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of like they brainwashed the audience. That's why I think like they used the scene. They made it so like exciting, so like impactful that you forgot he wasn't wearing a suit.
That's the effect of a good writing, good TV. Yeah.
And plus, you got the flashbacks as well, so you got to see the original suit.
Right.
You got to see era-specific versions of the suit based off of what part of his career we were flashing back to as well, which I thought was great. And then
you saw 4 suits.
Yeah, and then ultimately you get to see the new suits in the diner when he reveals himself to everybody.
Well,
so
4 shirt rips. That's 4 shirt rips, but 3 suits.
Okay. One last thing I also want to mention, I thought was really funny. In that scene with Jimmy, when Jimmy's like, "Oh, let's see if anything exciting happens this time." I was like, "Is Jimmy gonna blow up a bank or something?" Like the way he said, I was like, "Are you gonna cause an event? Like, what are you doing?" I was like, "Oh no, he was just okay."
I thought he was gonna maybe like jump off a building like Lois would do or something.
I think
and he's not there, so
Superman, she jumped off was it Niagara Falls? She jumped off the railing.
Yeah.
I gotta say, this Jimmy Olsen felt like Sam from Gen V for me. I did not like him.
Oh, really?
I like Sam. I just didn't like this guy. He just gave me a whole Sam vibe. It was weird.
Really?
You know what I mean?
Sam who?
I think the dynamic was definitely
Sam
different
who?
than you'd
From
expect.
Gen V.
Yeah.
Sam Lane or Sam V?
Sam in Gen V.
Oh, Sam in Gen V. Okay, his microphone is kind of like cutting out. Like sorry, my fault. But I thought he was talking about like this felt like Jimmy Olsen and at first in Lois and Clark, which I kind of agree.
I think if he would have been in more, I think I would have really liked this adaptation. But I think since we're only seeing the beginning of their friendship, like we can only kind of base this off of their starting point, right? I think if we would have if we had more seasons, I would have loved if Jimmy could have stuck around as well. I think that would have been a really cool. I thought they were going to do that this season. Like when we heard all the cast was leaving, I was like, okay, cool. You can bring in some of the new cast to kind of fill in the spots a little bit. But since it is the start of it, I guess this is kind of all we get, unfortunately.
If we got the original 7 seasons, yeah, he would have been like the main cast in season 5.
Yeah, I think that could have been cool. Okay, with that being said, I do feel like we have to wrap this up. It's getting late for some of our cast. I always call you guys cast members for some of our people here. So guys, thank you so much for watching. This was a very fun episode. Going forward, guys, I think it's only Superman Lois for the next couple weeks. That's kind of going to be it for us, so we can spend more time. Next 3 weeks until the new Helluva boss comes out and some other stuff starts. Okay, starting with you, Taz. Where can people find you? Where are you located?
YouTube.com/ToxicTaz. Be on the lookout for the episode breakdown with some theories and everything this week. And
Darth Bunyan, where can people find you?
First, I just want to say thank you to my baby for being here, and come and check me out at Darth Bunyan on YouTube and everywhere else, really. Yeah.
Amazing. 3 Dubs, where can people find you? Hold on. We can't see it. Hold on. And yeah, guys, for me, obviously we'll be back here next week, Superman Lois. And this Friday, we're doing the Pipeline Podcast. We're doing a massive news roundup of stuff. It's been a crazy year with Brazil, D23, and Star Wars stuff, and Game of Thrones stuff. It's been crazy all week. I was like, let's just do a massive news episode, talk about that for 2 hours. And yeah, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you so much for being here. And we will see you on the flip side. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.